What is happening out there, rotoscouts baseball fans? Welcome to the Tuesday show, gang. Getting back online after a long weekend there. Had projections up over the weekend. Whoops. Sounds like I got YouTube open. That's never good. Hopefully getting no feedback through the... Did I just blow out everybody's speakers with feedback? I don't think that's how YouTube actually works, but accidentally had the tab open there. As I was saying, I had projections up all through the weekend and yesterday. Didn't get on for a show with the morning slate yesterday and the dual split slates with the weirdness and everything. Just figured stay off the airways, keep on top of lineups, keep on top of changes for that one. But back in action today for a nice big 10-gamer. Should be pretty good. Hopefully everybody had a good weekend out there. Anybody do anything exceptional, anything fun, anything noteworthy over the long weekend? I did not. I mostly hung out here. Just covered baseball and did some good laziness. Did a little work over on behind the scenes at the site to get us aligned for some probably upcoming adding some subscription stuff like I've talked about. But we'll cover that when it comes around, probably for the beginning of the month next week sometime. But keep an eye out. We'll talk about it. Matthew Patterson's here. Andy Melman's here. What's going on, guys? Good to see you. It's a really interesting slate to go through. Could be Travis. Nice job, dude. That's awesome. That's on top of your win from that I was about to mention on Friday. That's killer. Travis is rolling. So I was just going to pull up the board here and just make a quick mention that, we had a pretty successful weekend. On Friday night, we had a couple big wins in the Discord. Not taking credit for them at all, but we had them posted in the Discord. So, I know one of them is from Travis here. So, could be Travis took down a second place finish in the Mega Mini Max over on DraftKings on Friday night for about $3,000. Looks like he put in a full slate of entries, had some pretty good results up toward the top end, and one of them got to second place. Finished just behind someone named Mook Monster. Don't know who that is. But a very nice finish there. We also had franchise 912 on his DK. It's franchise something else. Franchise 410 in the Discord channels. Took down a monster on Friday night. $10,000 first place finish over on DraftKings. Christian Scott, Braxton Garrett, Hunter Goodman, Josh Naylor, Andres Jimenez, Jose Ramirez, Gabriel Arias, David Fry. So a nice little core of Guardians. Looks like a two-man from the Rockies with Chris Bryant and Hunter Goodman, and then Whit Merrifield in that one. So that took down $10,000 on Friday night with a first-place finish for franchise. Not bad. We also had El Grew 50 over the weekend. I think it was on Saturday. Took down a little showdown winner on DraftKings, $750. Looks like a chop. It was a $1,500 to first-place showdown, and he took down $750, so I'm assuming that was a first place, second place chop, but still, very nice job. And now it sounds like our pal Travis knocked down another one. $88 entry on, I'm assuming that's DK. First place single bullet in a 19 entry max. Took down $10,000. Congratulations, you guys. That's pretty awesome. Nice job, Travis. Nice job, everybody who's winning out there. Hopefully that means behind the scenes, some other wins, some other nice days, profitable days for the rest of us. But it's always good to see some winners out there. So let's get into this one. Let's take a look at 10 games up. It's a 7:20 start in the East, as I think it was Kush pointed out in the Discord. Nice 4:20 start out for our West Coasters today. But 7:20 on both sites. Pretty interesting board in Vegas. The Braves pulling in a 5.28 run implied total against Cole Irvin in that game against the Nationals. Nats just relegated to 3.33. Blue Jays at the White Sox looks like a killer spot for some Kevin Gausman, and he's especially noteworthy cheap on the DraftKings slate. We're going to get to that in just a minute. Terrible White Sox check to just 3.10 runs on the Blue Jays side. Seems like an opportunity for them going up against Clevenger. Not the highest run total overall at just 7.5, but most of that is weighted toward the Blue Jays, 4.50. Not a terrible run total on the overall, and they're pulling some interesting numbers against Clevenger. So maybe a little spot to look at both sides of the Blue Jays. The Cubs and the Brewers, 3.55 implied total for the Cubbies going against Freddie Peralta. Brewers pulling a 4.54. They weren't projecting great in that matchup. They're going up against Ben Brown, who has been in and out of a bullpen role, kind of pitching in a hybrid role a little bit, but back to the full-time rotation for now. Pretty good over just 4 innings in his last time out. Should see 5 tonight. Viable, maybe a little bit cheap, low-owned, but it looks like the Brewers pulling most of the weight in that one. Royals with Cole Ragans going against the Twins. He's got them checked down to just 3.56 implied runs. On the other side, the Royals pulling just a 4.02 against Simeon Woods Richardson. Interesting spot for pitching on both sides in that one. You've got a high-end option and then one from the fair mid-range. Both of them, at least Vegas likes to keep them both to keep those teams in check. Both those teams have been productive for run scoring this year, though. Diamondbacks at the Rangers. Brendan Pfaadt going for the Diamondbacks. I forget who is pitching for the Rangers, but we'll get to it. 4.44 implied total for the Diamondbacks. Slight favorites, 4.15 implied total for the Rangers. I think I ended up starting Brendan Pfaadt in the Dynasty League because, it doesn't matter why. Because Christian Javier ended up going on the IL. So I think I did end up putting him in. I was originally not going to take him in a 2-start week. Nope, I'm wrong. I actually did sit him. So I sat him because of this start, and I forget who he's pitching against the second start of this week. But I don't love targeting the Rangers with a very talented but somewhat volatile Pfaadt in. So I didn't do it in season long. Probably not really looking to do it here with both sides of this one pulling. Not crazy, but healthy enough totals with a lot of upside for more, a lot of offense, some power showing on the Rangers side. So I don't love that one for pitching. Guardians of the Rockies, obviously, we don't love this one at all for pitching. If you're going there, Tristan McKenzie, maybe you get away with it against a very bad Rockies team. We've seen some pitching of similar talent succeed in that spot, but he's never all that reliable for depth. He can get got in a lot of situations, so just seems like a good spot to stay away from. And then the run total for the Guardians, 5.57, looks like a killer spot there. 5.05 on the other side, though, for the Rockies, not all that far off the mark. Both teams definitely in play. Yankees pulling a monster 5.22 implied total against Griff Canning, the launching pad. Yanks are extremely interesting for some home run upside. We'll see what that lineup looks like. Supposed to be getting DJ LeMahieu back tonight. FanDuel's had a confirmed tag on everybody all day long. Oh, Clevenger just got scratched. Mike Clevenger scratched Tuesday, placed on IL. So I guess Clevenger blew out his arm in the locker room. I'm just, he might have slipped and hurt his leg or something. I don't know. But he's not pitching today, so we'll see who comes down the pipe for the White Sox. That's going to be an interesting change. Rockies lineup came in. Who cares? We'll get to that one a little bit later. All right, so interesting. So as I was saying, FanDuel's had a confirmed Yankees lineup in that nobody else has. I'm not sure what I assume it's a mistake. But the question mark in there is DJ LeMahieu, who's supposed to be coming back, but we will see if he's actually in the lineup. They've got him in and hitting 9th. Interesting piece to add back into that Yankees lineup. Hitting 9th is less valuable than if he, say, popped into the leadoff spot ahead of Soto and Judge. They seem pretty locked in with Volpe in that spot. But definitely one to keep an eye on. Makes the Yankees lineup a little bit cheaper, a little bit more flexible. And there's some pretty interesting bargains considering the matchup. On the other side, the Angels going up against Nestor Cortez. Seems like a pretty skippable spot in terms of Angels bats. Nestor is definitely interesting. 3.90, call it, implied total for the Angels. The Marlins and the Padres. Low run total in that one. Low run total in the next one with Houston and Seattle as well. The Marlins and the Padres, 3.35 implied total for the Marlins. The Pods, I think we can get some interesting bats there. I think we can get some interesting pitching there. Jesus Luzardo going for the Marlins. Not the most targetable pitcher in the world, but definitely a somewhat gettable pitcher. The Padres talented enough to look at, even with a low total, even with a low opportunity. Maybe a sneaky enough on talent kind of a spot against, again, a very good pitcher, but a semi-gettable pitcher. If they're going to come in under-owned and inexpensive, I think they're at least a little bit frisky here. And then the Marlins going up against Matt Waldron. They're showing a little bit of odd home run power upside, which Waldron had a streak of 5 straight starts in which he gave up 1 home run, but he hasn't exactly had a tremendous home run issue, the knuckleballer. So it's just a weird spot where the Marlins are showing a little bit of potential sneaky quality. It wouldn't completely stun me if they beat that implied total pretty handily, put up a handful of runs and maybe got interesting. But it's not a high priority. Neither one of those teams is high priority. The Astros and the Mariners is a really interesting one. We've got Luis Castillo going for the Mariners. That's what's keeping the Astros down to just 3.12 or 3.42 implied runs. And then Hunter Brown going for the Astros up against the Mariners, who we've seen so many pitchers do really, really well against this year. A lot of swing and miss, tons of strikeouts, general lack of quality on the season. But Hunter Brown has been pretty mixed results-wise himself. He's given up a lot of power. He's been up and down. He's had some short outings. So it's a really shaky, questionable spot, but he's really inexpensive for the potential upside. 3.65 implied total on the Seattle side. They're favored in this game, but they're the more targetable of those two teams, and you're obviously talking about two very different pitchers, two very different price points. Last game up, Zach Wheeler dominating the pitching projections against the Giants, top of the board. Giants coming in at a 3.13 against one of the best pitchers in baseball, one of the most reliable options to go very deep into a game. And then a major question mark on the Giants side as far as who's actually pitching in this game. They have... we started the day thinking that it was probably going to be Spencer Howard getting called up to just make a full start. He's at AAA Sacramento for them. But then they announced Eric Miller, a lefty, is going to open the game. He pitched yesterday, so he's not going more than an inning. He's just a straight-up reliever, an inning here, an inning there. So I really, really doubt that we're going to see him for more than an inning. Maybe it's two, but I don't think it's more than that. The question is Spencer Howard going to get the call-up, or are they just going to go with a straight bullpen game? Sacramento's about an hour and a half away from San Francisco, so it's easy enough for them to get him there if they decide they want him in bulk relief. I've got him in the projections right now. The Phillies projections are running against him. I feel like it's somewhat replicable for a bullpen game. San Francisco does have a few really good arms in that bullpen, but if you're talking about an extended bullpen game, I feel like it's fair enough to leave Howard in there as the comp. So we'll see what we get. If it's Howard, I think he's very targetable. The Phillies, either way, pulling a healthy overall run total given the pitcher, and they're heavy favorites in that one. 4.47 implied total for them, 3.13 on the Giants side. You can see the pitching board. Again, just dominated at the top by Zach Wheeler in a pitcher's park against a very gettable Giants lineup, and he's just one of the top options overall. That said, there's no daylight between Zach Wheeler projecting where he is on DraftKings at 11,000 and then Kevin Gausman for 8,500 projecting a little bit behind that, but obviously that salary difference more than makes up that gap. 10-2 versus 10-8 on FanDuel is a little bit more negligible, but it's still a nice discount for a pitcher who should breeze through that Chicago lineup. Gausman's been somewhat mortal in spots this season, but he's also been fairly high end in a couple other spots, going up against the worst lineup in baseball. Seems like a really easy option to get to on DraftKings, and then well worth paying up for on FanDuel. Freddie Peralta against a talented but scuffling Cubs team. There's plenty of upside there, 10,000, 10.5. You do have plenty of options at that price tier, but Freddie is obviously very, very talented, very high strikeout. Cole Ragans against Minnesota, another good option, 10-6, 10-2. A lot of expensive pitchers, but a lot of pitchers that project really well. We've got, going by the FanDuel scale, we've got, 7 pitchers, 30+, and another couple right there. Some very nice discounts on some of these guys in the mid-range, from Max Fried through, let's call it Woods Richardson. That's a pretty broad range on DK there. Obviously, some higher prices in these three. Justifiably so. Max Fried, super talented pitcher going up against a okay National squad that's gotten some of their key bats back recently, but not a threatening spot at all. So a nice discount on Max. 92 is about right for Castillo against a talented Astros lineup. There's a lot of threat there, but Castillo's very, very good. 92 on FanDuel seems like a little bit of a discount compared to where everybody else is on talent. Nestor Cortez, I think a step down in talent from some of these guys, but the results are always there for Nestor. He makes things work, and pretty much always does, and he's got a tremendous matchup against the Angels. 9,000 on FanDuel is fine. 9,500 feels a little expensive when you get some of these options on DraftKings, but he's earned my faith, and I think he's earned the projection and the upside, the probability of some upside, especially with the idea that the Yankees are going to probably brutalize Griff Canning for an inning or two before getting into an Angels bullpen. Really like the opportunity for Nestor to at least book a win bonus here, even if he gives up a few runs. Lusardo, again, 9,600 on FanDuel. Perfectly fine to pay it. I do think there's opportunity on the other side of that one with San Diego's bats. I think you're getting a little bit underappreciated. At 8,000 on DraftKings, Lusardo is a second man in priority for extremely highly talented pitcher at what looks like a pretty aggressive discount. Gausman's number one in that bucket. Lusardo's probably number two. Then there is a talent dip or production dip to these guys, an experience dip as well. Hunter Brown, I love the matchup. I love the price on FanDuel at just 74. You can see he projects competitively with these guys. There is significant risk there, but there's definitely significant upside as well. 6,500 on DraftKings. Considering the discount from these two guys, makes him really appealing as a next man in from just straight out of the bargain bin, really. Ben Brown, if you can get 5 at him on DraftKings, 7,300 is not a bad price there. I think we're getting 5. I don't know that we're getting 6. 6,900 on FanDuel. I do think you can play it as a dart, but know that you're doing it probably not looking at a quality start bonus. Win bonus is on the board, but the Cubbies got to beat Freddie Peralta. It's a little bit of a tough ask there. So I think Ben Brown is more likely to land 25 to 28 FanDuel points right in that range and miss both bonuses if he has a good day. And obviously, he's no guarantee to have a good day. Brendan Pfaadt against Texas. I just don't like the matchup, but I do like the pitcher. 8,800. I'd be willing to play it. A few shares across 150 on FanDuel. 76 on DraftKings. I do think he's firmly in this mix of pitchers. Perfectly fine to go to, but know that you're targeting a pretty talented Texas lineup that is showing some power. On the other side of that one, Dane Dunning. Enough talent at these prices to actually be in the mix against the... Enough talent to be in the mix against the Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks not as threatening to Dunning, I think, as the Rangers are to Brendan Pfaadt, but they could definitely get him for a few runs here. Fair enough mid-range option, though. Woods Richardson is also in that level, 7,300, 6,800 for his talent. That's pretty good. He's not been bad. Just going up against a Royals team that's been scoring a decent number of runs, has a lot of talent in the lineup. It's kind of similar in terms of threat level to what Cole Ragans is facing on the other side at a much higher price against the Minnesota team. They're gettable on the right day. He's super talented, but they've been productive for run scoring this season. There's some strikeouts there for sure, but you're paying a big tax for them. So both of these pitchers at very different price tiers and very different projections are in like similar matchup, similar opponent level matchups. Matt Waldron against Miami. I could see an upside day, but like I said, I do see Miami is showing a little bit of pop against him. Not going to go out of my way to target Marlins bats, but they're one to keep in mind maybe if you need to get really, really cheap. That said, Waldron for 6,200 does have the upside to throw 6 clean innings against that Miami team, find a few strikeouts, book a win if San Diego happens to get to Lusardo at least for a couple of runs. So there's upside there from the bargain bin on DraftKings. At 84 on FanDuel, you're stretching it a little bit with all these other options on the board. Across 150, a few shares is fine considering the opponent, but he's not a high priority. McKenzie at Colorado just seems like a no, given that he's 7,000. If he was in the low sixes, somewhere on this kind of a price, even for a little bit of a discount, put him in the sixes and maybe I'm a little bit more interested. I do think you could see a 18 to 20 DraftKings points game on the extreme upside kind of a night, but McKenzie's really going to have his stuff working for him there. I just tend to avoid Coors pitchers unless you're getting a significant discount. He does have the talent to beat that team pretty handily, though. 79 on FanDuel just seems, again, like not a misprice, but just why would you need to risk it? Clevenger scratched. We'll see who's going to pitch in that one, but I don't think he's going to make any difference here. It's just an appealing spot for Toronto bats. Jake Irvin against the Braves is pretty much a no. Griff Canning against the Yankees is definitely a no, even at price. I don't know if Spencer Howard is going to pitch at all. We're waiting on that one, but he doesn't look like anything more than a target for Phillies bats if he does go, and Ryan Feltner is definitely a target for the Guardians. Travis Wyndham, what's going on, buddy? Good to see you, pal. Mamba's here. Nice, Mamba. Sounds like Mamba had a winning weekend, too. Seems like a lot of his cash this weekend. Up 15K. 5K on home run parlays. Damn. Nice job, buddy. Congrats to all the winners out there. Well done, gang. Love seeing those results. If you get a chance, if you're out on no reason to download Twitter, X, whatever they want to call it, don't go out of your way. But if you're a social media person, you happen to be out there responding to Chip My Money's very funny tweets all the time, See a lot of engagement for him. I don't really go down those roads of trying to generate engagement, but if you get a chance, if you got a winning screenshot, you feel like sending it out and saying like, hey, at rotoscouts, help me out with this. Hey, perfectly fine. Totally happy. Love seeing it. More to the point, I love seeing you guys win. That is a big takedown, Trev. Yeah, Trev, we talked about it at the beginning of the show. Oh, you were here. You were one of the people I congratulated. What am I talking about? I got mixed up there real quick between you and Travis Wyndham. Travis Wyndham, if you didn't notice, could be Travis. Took down some biggies over the weekend too, so got to get on board here, Travis Wyndham. Got to get you in the winner column. Michael Knack's going with Nestor. I like that spot. I really do. Hit that like button. Yeah, I agree. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe. Check out our pals over at acemine.io. Check this out. I figured out that I could do this. Look at that. Check out acemine.io for all your optimizing and simulation needs. Promo code rotoscouts gets you 20% off your first month after a 3-day free trial. Kickbacks. That's my information. PayPal, Venmo, CashApp, yada, yada. Like I said, we're probably going to have to go to some subscription focus over the next week or so. Probably kick it off to start June. Just need to get a little taste from my time. You know what I mean? Put a lot of effort and a lot of time into these things. But hopefully you guys are getting a lot out of it. Seems like at least some folks out there are winning. It's a great use of that space, right? That fits like right into that space. That little, hopefully you guys can actually see that banner down there. But I'm not going to keep that going through the whole show because that would annoy the hell out of me if I was watching it. And I didn't have enough to say in there other than those two things to repeat the whole time. But maybe we'll get the ticker going at a little bit better at some point. Anyway, that's the look of the pitching slate. Let's roll over and we'll start talking about some of these bats going into our little game-by-game breakdown here. Let's see if we got a new pitcher for the White Sox yet. Jake Woodford starting for the White Sox by Emma Woodford. Anybody know that movie? Mississippi Grind with Ryan Reynolds and what's his name? Ben Mendelsohn. Good flick. Good gambling movie. I'm just grabbing this in the background here. Okay. Woodford goes here. Clavier right there. Woodford, 78. Oh, he's not pulling a projection because he's not on the FanDuel slate. That's annoying. See, if you watch this show long enough, you'll eventually learn how this crazy model works. Where you got to put guys. That's probably high, but we're not going to bother with it. I'll check it after the show. That's definitely high because he doesn't have any starts. See, now that changed. That normalized to where it's supposed to be because the model knows that he's a starter. All right. Back to the top here. Nats against the Braves. Nats lineup did just drop. Let's grab it. So Max Fried going for the Braves looks interesting enough. I think the price is right for Max. 8,800, especially on DraftKings, is super appealing over there. 98 perfectly in play on the FanDuel slate. Max is a very talented pitcher, capable of pitching deep enough into a ball game. You do have a little bit of the memory of the Nats being super good against lefties last season, but Max talented enough to get through it. Not really one that I'm going to worry about for that. And it's been a little bit lessened so far this year. We can take a look at their results. Thomas, Joey Meneses, Senzel, Ruiz, Jesse Winker in the lineup against the lefty is interesting. Ilomaro Marcus, Riley Adams, and Jacob Young. So no Luis Garcia. And Jesse Winker in the lineup, lefty-lefty, is interesting. So again, Max Fried, last time out, another complete game. That was against Chicago at Wrigley. That's his second complete game of the year. Like I said, capable of pitching really deep into a ball game. 3-hitter, gave up 1 earned run, struck out 9 against a much better Cubs team. Against the Padres, he had a rougher start, went just 4 1/3 in that one on the 17th, gave up 9 hits, only 3 earned runs, but walked 3, struck out just 2. That was a tough one. But 7 clean innings to start before that against the Mets. Went 7, gave up 4, struck out 7 against the Dodgers at LA. Decent enough start over a 7-inning start against a really tough Dodgers team. Had the complete game shutout against Miami, 6 strikeouts in that one, just 3 hits. Decent start against Seattle in the game between that one and the Dodgers game. Max Fried is very, very good. Overall, it amounts to a 20.4% strikeout rate on the season, 3.38 ERA with a 3.36 xFIP. You can see just a 1-degree average launch angle against 4.8% barrels, 84.1 miles an hour of exit velo, 28.5% hard hits. He's spectacular at limiting premium contact, limiting home runs. You can see that the impact that that's having through the Nationals lineup here. Very low end for home run upside. Not really strong projections. A lot of ground balls, a lot of innings pitched at a max. And you take what you get for strikeouts. This is a relatively low strikeout team. You can see same group of hitters, exactly the same number last year at 19.7%. But you do have some of their better bats. Riley Adams, 28.9. Jesse Winker, again, lefty-lefty, and 23.2. Nick Senzel at 24.6 so far this year. And realistically close to their previous season numbers. So there are some strikeouts available from Max. On the other side, Jake Irvin, even against the Braves team that tragically lost Ronald Acuna over the weekend, pour one out for. I almost took the coffee cup and did it with that and actually poured coffee on my keyboard. That's how dumb I am, but I didn't do it because I'm just smart enough. Anyway, pour one out for Ronnie Acuna. That definitely sucks. I think it was the other knee. Wasn't the knee that he injured previously, but damn, that sucks. But I do think this Braves team is good enough, even without Ronald Acuna, which is bizarre to say, that they're going to compete in the NL East at the very least. I still think they're a playoff squad. Depends on what the pitching staff does, but this offense is still deadly, and they're drawing a pretty monster total against a pretty bad pitcher. 19% strikeout rate for Jake Irvin, 3.79 ERA, 3.78 xFIP isn't bad. 97.19 stuff plus mark is not far off the 98.11 that Max Fried has on the other side, but you can see in the premium contact where the difference between these two guys is. 10.2% barrel rate allowed, 45.5% hard hits on a 12-degree average launch, 91.3 miles an hour of exit velo, just 2.59% home runs. That feels a little bit lucky given the premium contact that Irvin's allowed so far this year. Last year on similar marks, it was 3.77% home runs. He had a 4.61 ERA, a 5.15 xFIP. He was walking way more last year. He's cut the walks dramatically, but he hasn't added strikeouts really. He's added a few swinging strikes, but the CSW is actually down. Oh no, I'm sorry, that's up. 25-6, 26-2. Yeah, that's up, dummy. But that doesn't account for that huge difference in walks. But I think it's a very, very gettable pitcher. You can see some of the power showing through the Braves. 10.63 for Austin Riley, 9.53 for Marcell Ozuna, 11.34 for Matt Olson in the home run model. And then they're bookended by Ozzie Albies at 7.72. Michael Harris in a killer spot in the leadoff spot for just 4,500, 3,200, pulling a 7.35. I like Harris to stay in that leadoff spot. Just leave him there. If you face like a really tough lefty, maybe take him out. But I think he's a great option in that leadoff spot. I hope they leave him there for the foreseeable future. If you're stacking Braves, at the very least, they've gotten less expensive. Right? You can now get the top 5 hitters in the Braves lineup for $3,400 apiece. That includes Ozuna at $4,000. If you want to skip Ozuna, you obviously are working with less. On DraftKings, same top 5 hitters. I know you can't roster 5 on FanDuel, by the way. $5,200 apiece on DraftKings. That's really appealing. If you skip Ozuna on DK and decide, hey, I'm going to book one of the top catchers, top offensive catchers in baseball for just $3,500 because they forgot who this guy is, I also think that's kind of interesting. Just do that. $47.60 apiece for Michael Harris, Austin Riley, Matt Olson, Ozzie Albies, and Sean Murphy. If I had told you on opening day that you could have those 5 players in a stack against Jake Irvin for $4,700 apiece, you would have called me a liar. Granted, most of those guys. Sean Murphy's missed the entire season outside of 7 plate appearances. Ozzie Albies hasn't quite been himself. He hasn't been bad, but he hasn't been himself. Matt Olson has definitely not been himself. Again, hasn't been bad, though. 194 ISO, not Matt Olson level, but still a very good ISO. 8 home runs and 218 plate appearances. All right, not his usual production, but not terrible. 11% better than average for run creation. Crushing the ball when he makes contact with it, like he always has. Strikeouts are up a little bit, walks are down a little bit. But it's still Matt Olson. Ozuna we skipped in that stack, but obviously he's been tremendous for this team. 15 home runs at 294 ISO, 604 slug, 79% better than average for run creation. He's the most expensive bat, but I wanted to illustrate, what you could get out of skipping him. Riley's been in a season-long slump, but he's a guy who's hit 30-plus home runs each of the last 2 years from third base. Very, very cheap and making excellent contact that's not far off of what his premium contact has looked like over the last few years. It's just some weird output for Austin Riley. He's back in the lineup. He's got an issue with his side. That's why he missed the last 2 weeks, or the last 10 days, basically. But back now. I think it was like 13 in the end. But back now, presumably healthy enough. And then Harris, again, I think is a killer option at the discount atop the lineup. 5 home runs, 8 stolen bases. We know that he's a better player than what his output has looked like so far this year. Last year, 18 home runs, 20 stolen bases, /293, 331, 477. This year down at 261, 299, 379. This is why I have faith that he can be a capable enough leadoff man. The skill set and the fact that he got on at a 331 clip last year, 339 the year before, with very similar numbers. It's a tremendous option up there. Dropping below Sean Murphy, and by the way, again, Sean Murphy on his own, 3,500 makes killer catcher one-off if you want to just grab him as a one-off. This is a tremendous power-hitting catcher. 438 plate appearances last year, 21 home runs. Year before, 18 home runs and 612 plate appearances. Also had a 227 ISO with a 129 WRC+. That's a killer catcher option. Kelnick, 3,000, 2,500. He's all right. Hasn't been super productive, but the drop-off was kind of sharp for a minute there, but it kind of stabilized around this level. He's playable. 96 WRC+. Adam Duvall, a lot of right-handed power. 5 home runs on the season, 198 ISO, 103 WRC+. And then Orlando Arcia, also very, very cheap for his talent. 5 home runs. Triple slash is kind of middling right now. The on-base is terrible for him, just an 86 WRC+, but a lot of talent there. Braves are still very stackable. They've just gotten really cheap for their talent. I really wouldn't consider that much of the Nationals against Max Fried. It's just not the right pitcher to target, even if you're saying, hey, some guys in here are good against lefties. Take a look at what they've done against lefties so far this year. Against left-handed pitching this year, collectively as a team, they ranked 27th in baseball, 78 WRC plus. They're slashing 223, 289, 334. Not good. So like I said, the quality that they had against lefties last year has kind of abandoned them. On an individual basis, Lane Thomas still pretty playable. 4,200, 3,000 is pretty cheap. He has been nowhere near the talent that he was last year so far. It's only been 101 plate appearances. Let him find his footing. He was out for a while. 2 home runs, 11 steals. The stolen bases are nice. 257 on bases and overly reliable. CJ Abrams, 5,500, 3,100. Lefty. Individually for CJ, has been good. He was terrible lefty last year, but this year he's been excellent. 58 plate appearances, limited sample, but 3 home runs, a stolen base, just 15.5% strikeouts, only walking 1.7% of the time. So balls in play like crazy against lefties so far this year. 357, 379, 625. It's been one of their best bats against left-handed pitching, if not their best. So like these two are interesting enough individually. Joey Meneses, not all that productive at all. .062 ISO, a 68 WRC plus, sub 300 on base, slashing 132, 207, 151 against lefties. Totally skippable. Nick Senzel, he's been good against lefties too. It's only 32 plate appearances, but he's got 2 home runs, 286, 375, 607. Once upon a time, again, if you haven't been here before, once upon a time, Senzel was projected to be one of the top prospects in baseball, but he badly missed that boat. Now he's just kind of hanging on. He's been all right. He's hit 5 home runs this year. He's got a 183 ISO. He's created runs 12% better than average. Not really hitting for average. He's getting on base okay at 331. That's good for this lineup. Seems like a player that the Angels should reach out. The Nats just over the weekend DFA'd Victor Robles. The Nats should reach out about a trade for Victor Robles and try and work Nick Senzel into that, just for how well these two guys fit that post-height prospect team that they're trying to build out there. Adding those two guys to Joe Adell, Mickey Moniak, Willie Calhoun would just be a fun thing for them to do. I do think they should definitely inquire about Victor Robles. I'd also like to see him end up on the Rays. I could see him going in 2020 the rest of the way for the Rays, like I said in chat the other day. Kim Ruiz puts a ton of balls in play, a semi-productive bat at catcher. He's got 3 home runs, just a 58 WRC+, 210, 246, 311. He's a better hitter than that. 14.3% strikeouts and 3.2% walks. That's kind of interesting just given the ball's in play, but he really doesn't hit the ball all that hard. He is only 2,400, but again, mostly on the ground, mostly weak contact induced by the pitcher, weak contact coming back the other way from the catcher. Doesn't really add up to DFS output. Jesse Winker, I don't love lefty-lefty, and against this lefty, we're just looking for some home run upside there. Vargas, Riley Adams, Jacob Young. Riley Adams is maybe interesting as an alternative catcher at 3,500. He did hit lefties for a lot of power last year. This year so far, no home runs in 29 plate appearances, slashing 115, 207, 192 against left-handed pitching, which is not ideal. So again, really, really skippable Nationals team. Braves, let's go Max Fried on top, particularly at that low DK price at 88. Jake Irvin is off the board. Braves bats are a big yes against Jake Irvin, especially at the discounted pricing. And then Nationals bats not really on the board for me against Max Fried here. Blue Jays and the White Sox. I'm sure we got some lineups here. We do. And the good news is I can just copy them. All right. So Kevin Gausman, it's just a problematically good price at $8,500 on DraftKings. I think he's going to be crazy popular for that money. This is, on talent, one of the better pitchers that we have, just overall, and definitely on this slate. And he's facing one of the worst lineups in baseball, if not the worst. I just don't understand why he's $8,500 on DraftKings. I get that the numbers are down somewhat. Last year, it was a 31.1% strikeout rate. This year, it's 25.1%. The walks came down a little bit by a percentage point. XFIP is literally 1/100th of a point lower than it is last year. Lower is good. ERA is high at 4.47, but the XFIP is right where it's supposed to be. He's put too many guys on base, 1.43 whip, against a 6.2% walk rate. That means there's some hits in here. It means there's probably some misfortune in here. Gausman right now is allowed a 367 batting average on balls in play. Feels like that's going to come down. Last year it was 321, and he had a 1.18 whip against the 7.2% walk rate. He's always going to allow some guys on base, but he's also always got a puncher's chance of getting out of it. 11.7% swinging strikes, 28.5% CSW. Both those are down a little bit year over year. That's why the strikeouts are down. But this is a tremendous, tremendous option. 2.49% home run rate allowed last year, 2.37% so far this year on very similar looking contact. I have zero issues with putting faith in Kevin Gausman. Last time out against Detroit, a Detroit team that's probably better than this White Sox team. 10 strikeouts over 6 innings, allowed just 3 hits, 1 earned run, walked 2. Couple of rough ones in a row. Faced the Rays, went 6, allowed just 3 earned runs, struck out 6, but 8 hits. A little bit of a up and down game there. Faced the Twins, got brutalized, allowed 10 hits over 3 innings, 6 earned runs, struck out 6 in the short start, gave up a home run, but that was a rough one, obviously. 8 strikeout game over 5 1/3 against the Nats. Went 7 innings against the Dodgers, struck out 5, just 1 earned run. This is Kevin Gausman against the White Sox. I don't think there's a need to overthink it. 10-2 on FanDuel, perfectly willing to pay it. 8,500, he should be the most popular pitcher on DraftKings at that price. Jake Woodford at 7,800, I don't think you want to throw necessarily here against the Blue Jays. Looks like he hasn't pitched in the show this year. Go back to him real quick. pitcher we do have some history on. Made 8 starts, worked 15 games, 47 2/3 for the Cardinals last year. Had a 13.1% strikeout rate with a 9.9% walk rate, a 5.28 xFIP. Year before that, over 27 games and is just one start, mostly in relief. Was also not that good. Had a 2.23 ERA and a 4.18 xFIP, but just a 12.8% strikeout rate. This is not a quality pitcher. Don't know how deep he's expected to go into this one. I assume he was pitching at AAA. Yeah, 10 starts this year at AAA, 49 2/3. Had a 5.26 ERA and a 5.11 xFIP in AAA. Did have a 19.6% strikeout rate, but again, that's pitching at age 27 in AAA. I think we rely on the very low strikeout rates from the major league samples and just figure that this Blue Jays team is probably going to get to him. The numbers dipped a little bit for the Blue Jays from where they were against a similarly gettable Clevenger, but I still like the spot. Davis Schneider up top, 7.01 in the home run model. Danny Jansen with a lot of power as a affordable catcher. He's hit 5 home runs since coming back to the lineup, 104 plate appearances, slashing .297, .375, .571. Hitting second in this lineup now. It's a pretty killer catcher option. Vladdy Guerrero, 5,000, 3,700 across sites. At worst, we're stable with Vladdy. The power upside really hasn't shown up. Just a 124 ISO, 5 home runs. But he's got a 297, 391, 421 triple slash. His creator runs 37% better than average. So 5,000 on DraftKings is a pretty steep discount for Vladdy. 37 on FanDuel is probably around where he belongs right now. But very, very affordable on DraftKings. 10.27 in the home run model, which still respects his power that's existed in the past. And, you know, to dispute some of the discussion that I know, I think Larry C is the culprit behind it in the Discord, talking about how Vladdy's got a huge power boost when they were playing in Buffalo a couple of years ago. While that's not untrue, you can see it right here in his premium contact. Nothing has changed about the way that he really hits the ball in terms of how hard he hits it, how frequently he's barreling the ball. If anything, it's up. So Vladdy is just still kind of a sleeping tiger right now. I do think the power returns. We're probably not getting to 40 home runs. We're maybe not getting to 30, but 25 to 28, I think is still easily in play the rest of the way. Bo Bichette, 4,300, 3,300, very, very cheap. He's slashing just 247, 297, 366, and 91 WRC+. I don't think his talent has completely abandoned him. We're just missing some barrels on some of these balls. Hard hits are right where they've been. Strikeouts are actually down year over year. Walks are slightly up. I don't think he's as bad as he's been this year. Happy to get to him at the discount. 4,300 is very cheap for that talent level on DraftKings. 3,300, probably about right for how he's been this year on FanDuel. Justin Turner, major dip after a hot start to the season. He carried this team over the first few weeks, but completely has fallen apart since then. Still very low strikeouts, still draws his walks, but 219, 297, 355. Very un-Justin Turner-like numbers at this point. You're definitely not looking to him all that frequently over Vladdy on DraftKings at first base. Multi-position on FanDuel plus the flex spot makes him a little bit more playable. Dalton Varsho, 45, 34, 10 home runs, 247 ISO. Definitely providing some power from the left side. Playable power bat, if nothing else, 7.15 in the home run model. Against this pitcher, happy to get to it. George Springer, way down in the lineup. Yesterday was the first time he hit below 6 in his entire career. Today's the second time. He's at 196, 274, 296 over 201 plate appearances. Big part of the problem for the offense for the Blue Jays. That said, I got to at least still have some kind of healthy respect for a player that we've liked over time. Premium contact is way down, appreciably down last year from the year before, and then dipped again so far this year. Big part of your problem. But strikeouts are down. They're low and they're down. Walks are up. He's doing some things right at the plate. He's just really not making good contact. Really, let's see what the luck looks like. With that kind of contact, I'm expecting the BABIP is really low. Oof. 215 batting average on balls in play. So some of that is bad luck, right, mixed in. But a lot of it has to do with how well struck the balls have been. Be interested to look at his those new swing speed numbers and swing length numbers for Springer. Kind of Leva and Kiermaier, Capable of producing here and there. Kind of Falefa does have a 106 WRC plus. He's got 4 home runs, 3 steals, 270 average. Puts the ball in play. I'll give him that much. 15.2% strikeouts, 5.5% walks so far this year. Kiermaier, mostly here for defense, but capable of driving the ball every now and again. It is very rare, though. Top 7 are really interesting. Some of them on price. Actually, really all of them on price and matchup. But some of them more with just like faith, memory of their talent at these prices, like Varsho, Bo Bichette. Top 3 is really interesting. On the White Sox side, it's a pretty big no for me. They're really not showing much power at all against Kevin Gausman. They're really bad overall. They do have Tommy Pham, top of the lineup, 304, 355, 443. If I'm going to one-off somebody from this lineup, it's probably Tommy Pham. Although Nicky Lopez, at least with the amount that he puts the ball in play, maybe he gets 3 hits and provides you a minor fantasy score without scoring any runs or anything, just for 2,300 at second base, 2,100 at second, third, and short. That said, he's a wildly unreliable option, despite his ability to put bat on ball with frequency. Just 234, 302, 248, a .014 ISO is pretty hilarious, and a 63 WRC plus. You're just looking for like a 3-hit day out of Nicky Lopez if you roll him out there. It's just about using a very cheap price to book second base as a free square, basically. Gavin Sheets, Andrew Vaughn, there's the power core for this team. They've got 4 home runs apiece. Enough said. Benintendi, Corey Lee, Paul DeJong, Corey Julks, Brian Ramos, all basically afterthoughts. If you're stacking this team for whatever reason, Corey Lee's been productive over 115. He's got 4 homers, a 106 WRC plus. DeJong has 7 home runs, but a 185 ISO, 99 WRC plus, and declining numbers around that. Corey Julks has been productive over 31. This is a bad team going up against an excellent pitcher. Kevin Gausman, big yes, particularly at that DraftKings price, but he's going to be super popular over there with a lot of options on the board. Would not surprise me at all if he puts up the highest score on the day, though. 10-2 on FanDuel, perfectly happy to pay it. Blue Jays bats, pretty big yes against Jake Woodford, especially if they're low-owned. Given their struggles this year, considering how cheap they are, I think they become more interesting if they're a little bit low-owned. Loved them against Clevenger, like them just as much against Woodford here. Woodford's a big no. The White Sox bats are a big no. Ground ball rate for Vlad is what scares me off him in a position with so much power. Vladdy hitting everything into the ground. Sometimes I just comment and do not read the comments directly before me. What's his ground ball rate? Oops. I can't just type ground ball rate into Fangraphs and expect that it'll give me Vlad. Considering the barrel rate, the ground ball rate can't be that egregious. 49.4. It's higher than I'd want it. 46.2 last year. 54.6 back in 2020. In 2021, when he hit 48 home runs, it was 44.8, significantly lower. Lowest of his career. So, yeah, I mean, it would definitely be helpful if he hit fewer ground balls. Home run to fly ball rate is down at just 11.1% this year. Last year it was 14.5. Year before 19.9. That monster year in 21, it was 26.5. Yeah, there's no, there's no real dip in a lot of ways in his production. It's just a matter of what he's doing at the plate. Rather than hitting home runs, he's just been a more productive bat. But the idea that he can still drive the ball, I mean, doubles work for me. RBI doubles, give me a couple of those. Add it up to a home run, I'm perfectly fine with that. So, I do think the home runs trend back a little bit, but yeah, could certainly stand to hit the ball on the ground less. No issues with that comment. Ben Brown, 7,300, 6,900. Again, yeah, had 4 productive innings in his last start. 4 innings against Atlanta. Struck out 6, walked 2, just 1 hit, faced 15 hitters. Give me that same start over 5 against this Brewers team. I think we can get there at 7,300. Maybe we booked a win for the Cubs. It's just a tough spot for the win, considering the Cubs are going up against Freddie Peralta. He's really, really good. $6,900 on FanDuel. I do think Brown is, again, it's probably another one of those ones where it's just going to come in around, or maybe this is who I said that about at the top of the show, where he's probably more likely to just come in right around these median projections on a good day. I don't think there's really ceiling there. There's probably not a very strong chance of a win bonus on DraftKings. There's pretty much no shot, I don't think, at a quality start on FanDuel. So it's probably just 25 to 28 FanDuel points, 12 to 15 DraftKings points, somewhere around there, again, on a good day. And the Brewers are a capable enough bunch against this pitcher. They've got a lot of run creation in the lineup. On this side, Freddie Peralta, 10-5, 10,000 against a Cubs team that has been up and down this season. It's a team that I like. That said, they're striking out a little bit this year, 23% so far this year, at 23.1% for the same group of hitters last year, but some small sample numbers influence that. They're getting on base a little bit less. Some of their better players have been underperforming, guys like Ian Happ, who had a good day the other day, guys like Dansby Swanson, certainly. It's a little bit of a dip from Cody Bellinger. So they haven't been as good as I think they are collectively, but Freddie Peralta has been excellent. 3.81 ERA, a 3.26 xFIP, 30.9% strikeouts. Giving up some barrels and some launch, but no real problems with hard hits or exit velo. It's only amounted to a 3.04% home run rate, and a couple of those were some odd blips. He had a two home run game 2 games ago, gave up a home run in his most recent start. That was against Miami. Gave up a home run to the Rays and to Pittsburgh, and Baltimore makes sense. The Mets make a little sense. But gave up some odd home runs along the way. Just a little bit of bad luck baked in there for Freddie. Last start, gave up just the solo shot, 4-hitter against Miami over 7 innings, struck out 7. 5 innings at Houston, gave up 5 earned runs on 8 hits. That was a rough one. That was the 2 home run game. 6 strikeouts there. 8 strikeouts, 3 runs allowed on 8 hits over 6 against St. Louis. 5 strikeouts, 3 runs allowed over 5 against the Cubs, against the same Cubs team at Chicago back on May 5th. So the results have been a little bit mixed in terms of the earned runs, but the strikeout rate is there. The xFIP likes him to overperform. The expected number is certainly better than the ERA. The ERA is non-tragic. Pitches pretty deep into games most of the time. Very good shot at a quality start. Very good shot at a win bonus. So I like the Freddie Peralta side of this. That said, there are a lot of similarly priced high-end options today. If you're targeting Cubs bats, let's see if we got the lineup in. Doesn't look like. If you're targeting Cubs bats, I like the high on base option with Mike Tauchman off the top. That said, he's cooled a little bit. 4 home runs, 4 steals, 267, 377, 410. Still creating runs, 31% better than average on the whole this season. Still a productive leadoff man for a cheap enough price in the outfield, but he is mostly just another outfielder, and it's a tough matchup. Seiya Suzuki, a lot of hard hit there. 4 home runs on the season, just a 147 ISO, kind of in defiance of how well struck the balls have been. I like the upside going forward for Suzuki. I don't love the matchup. 47.29, he's very cheap for the talent. Cody Bellinger, 48.31, also pretty cheap for his talent. He's got 7 home runs, a 190 ISO, 114 WRC+. Missed a few games in there, slashing 253, 324, 443. Strikeouts are still appreciably down from where they were 2 years ago when he was in a mess. Keeping in line with the bounce-back season last year. I like the upside for him, too. But again, not against Freddie Peralta. Just tough spot. It's kind of a why do you need to spot for the Cubs. They'll be low-owned. You do have the opportunity of booking a talented team, even though they've been underperforming, at fair prices and low ownership. That's really the best that can be said about the Cubs stack today. Chris Morel, 34-32. A lot of power for a cheap price, but just 198, 297, 374. 9 home runs on the season, but below average for run creation. Ian Happ, the on-base is stabilized at 330, but is a little better than that for on-base. That's keeping his WRC plus afloat at 103. He's up to 220 in the average department. 4 home runs, 2 steals, hopefully rounding into form. But it's been a rough start. Still a lot of well-struck balls, though. Nico Horner just here for on-base and stolen bases. Finally stole his 6th base of the season, still getting on at a 353 clip. Creating runs 13% better than average. Michael Busch creating runs 14% better than average despite a dip in the triple slash overall. Still hits for power, 196 ISO, 7 homers, 12.4% barrels. Dansby, the contact is there, right where it's supposed to be. It's just resulted in 4 homers, 4 stolen bases on the side of that. Just a 283 on base, 120 ISO, and 79 WRC plus. Some bad luck mixed in there for Dansby, but striking out a little bit more, walking a little bit less as well. It's got the price down a lot at shortstop for a player that I do like. Just again, bad matchup. Miguel Amaya, afterthought at catcher. On the Brewers side, targeting Ben Brown, not the craziest idea in the world. He does have a 28% strikeout rate over his 39 and a third. Those are 5 starts, a few relief appearances in there. Stuff Plus likes the arsenal, but he's given up a ton of hard hits, a lot of barrels. He's a fly ball pitcher. 93.6 miles an hour of exit velo is problematic. This contact does not equal that home run rate. So either this is going to normalize or that's going to go way, way up. I think he's gettable for premium contact. It's just he hasn't really given it up, so the Brewers aren't really showing it. Could make them a somewhat interesting stack here. Again, a lot of these guys are productive enough for run creation that it's believable off the top. Bryce Turang, 19 stolen bases on the year, 301, 366. Love the on-base percentage. Helps him create a lot of runs, uses speed, do what he does well. Low strikeout rate, pretty good walk rate. Doesn't hit the ball very hard. Capable of driving it here and there, though. Does have 3 home runs on the season. Very productive 188 plate appearances for Turang, who is supposed to be about this level of a player. William Contreras just continues to rake 330, 402, 524, a 193 ISO, 8 home runs. Killer option at catcher. 58 is a tough ask for a one-off, but if you've got the salary, why not? Looks like a great spot to one-off him. Definitely would include him. He's a priority bat in stacks on both sites, especially with it's Jake Bauers at first base. He's totally playable, but if you want to just consider Contreras a first baseman and play him that way on FanDuel and skip over Jake Bauers, totally doable. Or you can play Jake Bauers in the outfield, not have to occupy the util spot, just with a little focus on construction there. Christian Yelich, 55-39 in the outfield. He's slashing 307, 391, 535, 228 ISO, 5 homers, 7 steals. Crushes the ball when he makes contact. Willy Adames, 8 home runs, 8 steals, 249, 322, 440. That'll probably still continue to go down a little bit further, but Adames has been very productive over 233 opportunities this year. Bauers at 45-28 has a little power upside from the left side, 5 home runs for him. 150 plate appearances of Joey Ortiz have been productive, 214 ISO, 147 WRC plus, 5 home runs. Very productive bat, striking out just 16% of the time, walking 12.7%. Good opportunity for him. Sal Frelick, Jackson Chourio, Blake Perkins. We'll see what we get at the bottom of the lineup here. All those guys are playable. All those guys have home runs and stolen bases on the season. Everybody in this lineup can hit for a little bit of power, can steal you a base. You've got nobody in the projected lineup without a stolen base, nobody without at least 2 home runs. Even Chourio, who's scuffling, 5 home runs, 7 steals, 218, 263. That's got to improve. Strikeout rate has come down. I like the upside going forward. He's still 41.1% hard hit rate for the rookie. The kid who has more talent than anybody in the minor leagues coming into the season. Like we're right there with Chourio. The breakout is coming. Maybe I'm trying to talk myself into this. Blake Perkins was productive at the start of the season. 4 home runs, 5 steals. Is just down to kind of playable output right now after 170 plate appearances. But top to bottom, depending on who's in it, the Brewers are pretty interesting. Freddie Peralta's a big ass top of the 4 corners. Then Brewers bats. Then a discount roll on Ben Brown on DraftKings if you want it. And then probably Cubs bats against Freddie as the lowest end out of the 4 spots. They're moderately playable. They're going to be low owned in this spot. Freddie has been giving up some runs. Wouldn't shock me if the Cubs were a low owned contrarian angle into the top levels of the board. But not in the highest probability either, right? It wouldn't shock me, but would kind of surprise me. Put it that way. 2 confirmed lineups in this one. 2 interesting pitchers. Michael Knack likes the Brewers. Brewers going to smash. Turang can just ball here. I like it. I missed Edward B's comment. Holy shit, the cops down here in North Carolina are dumb as shit. I'm listening to you, Terry, sitting at a park, and this idiot says it's not normal behavior. Get the fuck out of here. I'm listening to Terry. Hopefully Edward's not thrown up against the back of a car getting patted down right now. I won't. I was gonna start saying places to search in somebody's car, but I won't do that just in case that is the case. I'm on Edward's side. He wasn't doing anything wrong, officer. Let him go. Anyway, pretty hilarious. Hopefully that worked out for you, Edward. Cole Raggins, Simeon Woods Richardson, 6,800, 7,300. Woods Richardson, 18.2% strikeouts over 35 innings, 7 starts, just a 2.57 ERA, but a 4.35 xFIP tells you a little bit more of the truth. Has been good at limiting home runs, but not really hard hits or exit velo or barrels or launch angles, so probably some more home runs coming over time. 85.69 is way below average by Stuff Plus metrics. So maybe has been getting by a little bit better than overall he should, but has been making it work. Just 4 2/3 in his last start, but 3 hitter, no earned runs, 1 strikeout, 1 walk. That's pretty low end. That was against Washington. Against a low strikeout Cleveland squad, 2 strikeouts, no walks, 1 earned run on 4 hits over 5 1/3. 4 1/3 was a rough one. Gave up 5 earned runs to Toronto at Toronto. Makes kind of sense given what that team does on a good day. Low strikeout bunch, looking for premium contact against a pitcher who's given some up. Makes some sense that they got him. He gave up 2 home runs in that game. That was the only 2 home runs he's given up. So that was like when this came up and bit him, it was resulted in a 2 home run day, 5 earned runs against Toronto. That was the lone rough start though. 6 innings against Seattle, had an 8 strikeout game. We know that that's more because of Seattle than because of who he is. But does have a little bit of upside here. It's just that the Royals have been good and the Royals are fairly low strikeout. They kind of comp toward that, that Toronto game, or Cleveland didn't get him, but I would say they comp toward like a Cleveland team that did put up 4 hits, scored a run, just 2 strikeouts. I think on the right day, Cleveland rolls that up to 5 or 6 runs, bunch of hits. So I could see the Royals doing that to him. He's in no way a high priority, but 6,800 is worth a few value darts on DraftKings if you're building a lot of lineups. 7,300, he's only gotten through 6 twice this season. Pitched into the 6th 2 starts ago, but pitched fewer that didn't complete the 5th in the 2 starts around that one after the 6-inning start. So I don't love the upside for the quality start. 7,300 is very cheap. If you can get the win against Ragans, maybe it's in play on FanDuel for the cheap price, but there's other pitchers I like in that price range, and I don't really love their opportunity to beat Ragans here. At 10-2, 10-6, he projects out as one of the top pitchers on the board. 62 innings and 11 starts this year. He's got a 29.8% strikeout rate, 3.34 ERA with a 3.04 xFIP. He's been very good at limiting hard hits and premium contact and exit velo, keeping home runs in the yard. He's got a 10 points better than average rating by Stuff Plus across the full arsenal. Last game against Detroit, 6 innings, 1 hitter, 3 walks, 12 strikeouts, no runs. 7 clean innings against Oakland the start before that, 7 strikeouts, 2 hits. He's pitched at least 6 innings in each of his last 5 starts. Pitched into the 7th 3 times in that stretch, completed it once, also had a 6 2/3 against Toronto with 9 strikeouts, 6 1/3 against the Angels, just 3 strikeouts in that game and 7 earned runs, 8 hits. That must have come late in that start. I don't remember what happened there. The only blips for him this season are that game and then a rough inning and 2/3 on April 20th against Baltimore. Gave up 7 earned, struck out just 4, 9 hits. Other than that, he's been basically elite this season. So like the spot a lot for Cole Ragans. The Twins, similar to the Brewers, they've been capable of stringing runs together. They've scored a decent amount of runs this season. I think on the whole, they're outperforming their overall talent. And I do think they're gettable for strikeouts for a pitcher like this. He's got a 29.8% rate against their 22% rate. Last year's same group of hitters was 22.4%. Believable. It's right in line. No extreme small samples really influencing anything. Maybe 2 points from Kyle Farmer over 98 plate appearances. But everybody else basically in line with where they're supposed to be. But I do think for run creation, they've overperformed overall in the season. Manny Margot at the top of the lineup. He tends to land up there against lefties. Low strikeout at 19.6%, but slashing just 194, 252, 245. Certainly not somebody you're going out of your way for if you're building stacks of Twins. Not somebody to worry about with Cole Ragans. A somewhat capable put the ball in play kind of an option off the top of the lineup. He doesn't hit it very hard. Doesn't really do a lot to create his own DFS points outside of getting on base sometimes, and he's not really done that this season. Carlos Correa, 270, 356, 452. Definitely interesting off the top. 4,100, 3,300. He's got 4 home runs, a 183 ISO, 132 WRC+. He's a priority bat if you're going to this team. Ryan Jeffers has an 11.8% barrel rate. He's hit 10 home runs, has a 270 ISO. He's been the best power bat on this team. 258, 342, 528. He's been productive overall, too. Hitting third against a lefty, 4,700 is a pretty good price for that kind of production. It's just Probably looking at a few strikeouts from Mr. Jeffers. 23.4%. Last year it was 27.8%, going up against a very high-end strikeout pitcher. Not the best spot in the world. Jose Miranda, 3,400, 2,500. For what he does, he's very affordable. 279, 313, 467, a 122 WRC plus. A lot of balls in play, very low strikeout, very low walk. Capable of hitting the ball harder than he has been this year. Last year, the hard hits were up a little bit, and the year before, they were up a decent amount. So if he gets back to this level of well-struck balls in a growing sample of plate appearances, he becomes more interesting. Third base, he's not ideal at either one of these positions, but he is cheap. He is getting cleanup if you're stacking this team. Byron Buxton really hasn't been all that productive, over 129 this year, in and out of the lineup like crazy. 3 home runs, a 158 ISO, 96 WRC plus. We all know there's superstar talent there on any given slate. It's just hasn't really arrived this season. 4,500, 2,900 though, for the upside, for the ceiling on the right day. Very cheap. Just not a great spot to go find it. Pretty high strikeout option as well against a very good strikeout pitcher. Willie Castro has been productive, but it's dipped a little. 253, 330, 416 now. 115 WRC plus, still good. 4 home runs, 7 stolen bases. Like the upside for steals and on base going forward. Good correlated scoring option for cheap from late in the lineup with some positional flex on FanDuel. Kyle Farmer, positional flex on both sites for a very cheap 2,400. That said, he's been abysmal this year. Last year, we got some cheap home runs out of him. This year, it hasn't really been there. You can roll the dice with it if you're stacking against Cole Ragans for some reason. Carlos Santana, Christian Vasquez. Santana's got 7 home runs, but a 201, 282, 361 triple slash. And Vasquez has been basically lost at the plate, over 108. It's not great from the bottom of the lineup. It's not great upside to turn the lineup over a bunch of times against Ragans. So I think we're saying Cole Ragans probably your top option, followed by Royals bats, followed by some cheap shares of Simeon Woods Richardson, mostly on DraftKings as an SP2 from the bargain bin, 6,800. Playable enough, but not a high priority bargain bin option. And then pretty low end Twins. It's another spot that wouldn't completely stun me if they went out and hung 5 runs on Ragans and just kind of ruin Ragans' day without going off completely and being the must-have stack of the day. I think that's the Twins' upside today. It would pretty much shock me if they went out and, hung up a 10 spot here. That would be surprising. D-backs, Rangers. Brandon Pfaadt going against Dane Dunning. Let's see if we got either of these lineups in. If we got the Rangers in. We had the Diamondbacks. They were the first one, I think. Take a moment, hit the like, hit the subscribe. Check out the notes below the show for our various promos and so on and so forth. Michael Knack says, Braves with a Brewers mini. You're welcome. That's an interesting combo. I like the Braves quite a bit off the top. And again, they've gotten very, very cheap for their upside. Like the Brewers enough. Poor Nestor. He doesn't deserve that name. Nestor the Molester, according to Michael Knack. We'll get to Nestor. Looks like a great spot for him. He's pitching very well. As I'm sure we'll see, Stuff Plus, not a darling of Stuff Plus because it doesn't necessarily account for a lot of the weird shit that Nestor does on the mound. Stephen Leibowitz got here late. He's going to rewind and play at two times speed. Just make sure you're not doing it in a public park with your windows open where the cops can hear, because apparently that's problematic and not normal behavior. Have we heard from? I don't think we've heard anything from him since that happened. Where'd it go? Where'd that note go? Oh my God! Did the cops get in here? Ah, there it is. Edward B. Edward B. Check in. Let us know you're okay. Hopefully the poor guy didn't have something in his car. I don't know what the status of weed or whatever in North Carolina is, but hopefully that worked out. I'd feel really bad if poor Edward got dragged off, cuffed, sitting in the back of a car, banging his head on the car. You guys ever watch Live PD, or it's called On Patrol Live now, I think? It's basically cops, but live, quote unquote live on delay. It's a lot of fun. I think I've talked about it before. Not the biggest fan of the cops in the world. A lot of good ones out there, obviously. We don't need to get into the politics of it. But it's just super amusing to watch. Basically, 90% of the interactions are just pulling somebody over, and either they've got weed in the car or they're drunk. The hit rate on that is outrageously good. Every single person they pull over that has been drinking, regardless of whether it's somebody who's just maybe kind of weaving a little bit, seems okay, or somebody who is banging on their window sir, wake up. You're passed out in the middle of an intersection. Hello, sir, wake up. Invariably, those people bleary-eyed say, Yeah, I was drinking, but I just had 2. It's always 2. I don't know why. I don't know why it's not 1. I don't know why it's trying to get away with saying you weren't drinking. But 2 seems like the magic number that all these people try for some reason. But yeah, the amount of people that just drive around with weed. I got busted with weed in my car as a younger person twice because I'm a dumbass. It was mostly because I had a headlight out both times. But the amount of people that drive around with shit in their car and that drive around drunk is just staggering. And the hit rate for these guys just absolutely identifying those cars somehow, pretty good. Anyway, it's just amusing. Yes, could be Travis. I'm with you on that one. In the right way, though. I don't want to not have police. I just want to. I think defund the police is a bad expression. Reconfigure the funding of police emergency services and so on and so forth. Michael Knack doesn't like it. Here we go. Now we're fighting. Let's get off politics and back on to baseball, shall we? Dane Dunning, 7,100, 7,800. Capable enough pitcher. 27.8% strikeout rate on the season. It's just a pretty low strikeout Diamondbacks bunch that is productive enough for run creation on the other side. Does have enough power to get to a guy like Dane Dunning. And Dunning, for as talented as he might be, just an 85 by stuff plus. They don't like him. That's 15 points below league average. 4.43 ERA, but a 3.69 xFIP. 27.8% strikeouts is good. 12.4% swinging strike rate is good. But he walks too many at 10.7%. That's a really high walk rate, and he's given up a ton of premium contact, 14.9% barrels, 50.5% hard hits, 92.2 miles an hour of exit velo, and a 4.73% home run rate. Pretty problematic. Gave up a home run last time out, had 2 better starts before that, a 10 strikeout game against Cincinnati over 5 1/3, just 1 earned run, 3 hits, no home run in that one. Gave up 2 home runs in the game before that and 2 home runs in his first start of the year with a home run in every game in between over 3 games. So that's a lot of power that he's allowed. I think the Diamondbacks showing the appropriate amount of power with a few guys in the 7s. These guys are good home run hitters, but nobody's a total killer. Christian Walker is the closest they've got to it. And then Jock Peterson against a righty certainly has premium power upside. Both of those guys make tremendous contact at the plate. 7.13, 7.26 in the home run model for just 4,100, 4,700 on DraftKings, 28 and 33 on FanDuel. Pretty great options. They follow Ketel Marte, who's been very productive. He's got 10 home runs on the season, and 218 ISO, 126 WRC+, 275, 322, 493. It's a very good 3-man right there. Corbin Carroll has just been lost. Over 223 plate appearances. He's at 188, 274, 284, .096 ISO, 2 homers, 9 steals. It is really, really rough. Man, you don't like Castillo at all? Who? What? Low strikeout Padres scare me off the Lizard King. Yes, exactly, Trev. We're going to... Yeah, no, I was... Travis Duarte... I feel like Castillo is due for a good game. Play New York and Baltimore, and then ride the Luzardo wave. Yeah, I do. I do like Castillo. I finally caught up to how that came together. There's one comment back to could be Travis, and I had missed yours, but yeah, like Castillo, we'll get there. So on the Diamondback side again, targetable enough given the power that Dunning has given up. He has been good for strikeouts this season, good for swinging strikes, but they're low strikeout enough that I think it's believable that the Diamondbacks get to him here. 4.44 implied total, safely in the middle range. I think they're kind of an interesting stack. It's just, what are you going to expect out of Corbin Carroll? It's very difficult to make him project correctly, I think, for this insane dip that he's been in, considering how good he was last year. But we've got to account for it a little bit, I think, because it's looked very real. His swing has not looked right. It's problematic. They're rolling him back out in the leadoff spot because what else are you going to do? He's very cheap for the upside, but the upside has been few and far between this year. Pavin Smith, 3,200, 2,200, capable enough lefty bat. Just 1 home run over 42 plate appearances. Has a little bit of premium contact upside. You can see it in years past. Fairly low strikeout. 19.7% last year, just 9.5 in the tiny sample this year. Jake McCarthy, a little bit of power, a little bit of speed, 2 homers, 4 steals over 121, 118 WRC+. Another guy capable enough lefty bat for cheap. Junior Suarez, Gabriel Moreno, and Kevin Newman at the bottom of the lineup have really been not all that productive. Moreno and Suarez, I expect to be more productive than this. 4 home runs combined is not good. A 75 and an 89 WRC+ is pretty rough. Kevin Newman's just not really high-end offensive player. He's been the most productive in the group, over 120 plate appearances with a 102 WRC plus, 2 homers and a steal, but he's a fairly low-end offensive player. So if you're going to this team, it's really top 6 and then maybe some faith and price-based plays around these guys. But I do think the Diamondbacks are playable here. Dunning at 71, value darts at best. 78, probably not on FanDuel, even projecting out all right. It's probably another one of those spots where it just doesn't have a ton of ceiling on that believable enough median projection, and definitely has a basement. Fott is the interesting one. 76 on DraftKings is cheap for the talent. 23.5% strikeouts against just a 4.5% walk. Very nice rating by Stuff Plus. Has been decent enough at limiting premium contact despite being a fly ball pitcher. 4.05 ERA with a 3.59 xFIP, 10.5% swinging strike rate. Talented kid, just a really tough matchup against Texas. You can see the power that's showing through for some of these bats from Texas. Last year, Fott had a bigger home run issue. Over 18 starts, it was mostly at the beginning of the season, but over 18 starts, it amounted to 11.7% barrels, 43.6% hard hits, 90 plus miles an hour of exit velo, and a 5.23% home run rate. He's obviously wrangled that, but some of that is still shining through here. I do like Rangers bats enough that I would use them across 150 lineups. I think they're in play. They're drawing a reasonable total. It was the low 4s, I think, 4.15. A playable enough total, though, with the power that's showing. Depends on what configuration of the lineup, but it's been fairly consistent around this top end. Semien and Seager are locks in the top 2 spots unless somebody gets the day off. Seager quietly up to 11 home runs, a 189 ISO, 258, 349, 447. Premium contact looks terrific. Starting to round into form, 5,300, 4,000. Prices low on DraftKings and appropriate on FanDuel. Semien at 52.35 has 9 homers, a 107 WRC plus. The production's down a little bit. Hard hits and barrels are right where they've been. It's not a player that just crushes the ball on contact. He just gets very good results for his contact. 14.6% strikeouts last year, 14.1% this year. Semien, if he's off, he's not far off. Josh Smith, 3,800, 2,600, 283, 76, 410. He's okay. I think he's overperforming his talent still, but the price is right. I'd rather have Nathaniel Lowe in this spot. He's down here. I think he's easily the better of the 2 bats. So depending on which way those guys go, either one of them is playable. My preference is Lowe, even if he's down in the 6th spot versus Smith from the 3. Adolis Garcia, 5,436, 11.74 is second on the team for home run upside. He's got 12 on the season with a 237 ISO. Makes tremendous contact. Leody Taveras, 3,326. If he's hitting 5th, that's a productive spot in the lineup for him. 4 home runs, 5 steals, 99 WRC plus. Lowe has 2 home runs, a .092 ISO, an okay enough triple slash, and a good on-base percentage with a 111 WRC plus. Doing Nathaniel Lowe things, very, very cheap, 42.28. Jonah Heim, 41.28, especially if he ends up hitting higher in the lineup for some reason. Tons of power upside there. Just a 109 ISO and 5 home runs on the season, over 187 plate appearances, but he's got more power upside than that. Ezekiel Duran, Evan Carter, playable parts at the bottom of the lineup. Duran's not been bad over 108 plate appearances. Carter's not been good over 162, but he has at least hit 5 home runs, has a 174 ISO. Yep, Trav, we'll get to the Yanks in a minute, but yeah, DJ definitely going to be interesting, at least till we see what kind of form he returns in. So it's probably Diamondbacks bats, Rangers bats, both as moderately interesting plays, Diamondbacks more so. Brandon Fott above Dane Dunning, both of them from the moderately priced level on DraftKings, both of them less interesting on the FanDuel slate. 88 is a pretty steep price for the question mark that is Fott on FanDuel. Coors Field. We have the Rockies. So Tristan McKenzie, again, like I said at the beginning of the show, I do think he's talented enough to go out there and win this game and put up a respectable fantasy score. It's just I don't think we really need to tangle with it. 7,000, he's not quite at the extreme discount that I would want to try that on DraftKings. 79 on FanDuel, I just don't think there's a ton of upside. And he hasn't really been on form largely this year. Right around league average by Stuff Plus for the full arsenal over his 10 starts, 52 and a third innings. 20.2% strikeouts against an ugly 13.9% walk rate. 3.44 ERA, but the 5.21 xFIP tells you the truth. 8.6% swinging, a lot of contact available, giving up a lot of premium contact. 90 plus miles an hour of exit velo, fly ball oriented pitcher, 11% barrels. None of that is good. Gave up 3 home runs in his most recent start. That was against the Mets. 5 innings, just 3 earned runs, so I guess they were all solo shots. Struck out 5, walked 3, 5 hits. I guess that's not, on the whole, tragic, considering that he allowed 3 home runs. I would expect that the results would be a little bit worse than that if you tell me that somebody allowed 3 home runs in a 5-inning start, but that's not a good DFS start. 6 2/3 in each of the starts before that, 1 against the Twins, 1 against the White Sox. He allowed just 1 earned run in each, struck out exactly 5 in each, but walked 4 against the Twins and 3 against the White Sox. 7 strikeouts is his high for the season. That came in just 4 innings against Boston. He gave up 2 earned runs in that one. Had a 6 strikeout game over 7 innings. 7 innings is the deepest he's gone in a game. Went 7 at Houston. 2 earned runs, struck out 6. Decent game there. 6 2/3 in those other 2 starts. So, I mean, capable enough of giving you depth. But really pretty low end, especially if you're going to put extra guys on at Coors Field. Even against a bad Rockies team, that just leads to opportunities. Even base hits beat you at that point. I really don't like it. Ryan Feltner's just a pretty hard no against a very good Guardians team. He measures out kind of similarly to what McKenzie does with a better walk rate, 6.7% walks, 20% strikeouts over 55 innings. The home runs have been more in line for him. He's allowed less power. He's got a very similar mark by Stuff Plus. You can make a firm argument that Ryan Feltner at 58 is actually a better option. It's just a bad matchup on the other side for anything that he's capable of doing. 19.4% strikeout rate for this group of hitters so far this season. Last year, same group was at 19.2. A lot of balls in play from Cleveland. A lot of ability to get on base, create runs, string together some power, steal some bases. It's a good spot for Cleveland in Coors Field. I expect they'll be popular. They're priced up slightly, but not like crazy. It's not egregiously high. Coors Field prices. It's just, all right, now I'm paying $37 for David Fry versus like, $33, $34 is a little bit more comfy. $4,000 for Josh Naylor. All right, I get it. He's been really good this season with 13 home runs, but the triple slash hasn't been great. $47 for Jose Ramirez, $64 on DraftKings. That's high, but he's worth it. Andres Jimenez at $37. That's a little bit high. I'm more comfy paying like $34. Tyler Freeman, I'm more comfy paying like $31. So there's a little Coors Field tax here, but they're very playable. There's going to be a lot of contact available. I like their upside. If I'm going there, even at high prices, it's mostly about like the top 6. I can stretch for Kyle Manzardo. David Fry's been really good, over 123 plate appearances. David Fry slashing 344, 488, 591, a 247 ISO, creating runs 104% better than average in the small sample. 6 homers, 3 steals. Not exactly insane premium contact, 41.4% hard hits, 8.6% barrels, just kind of respectable. Drawing a ton of walks, striking out less than he did last year. Walks are way up, strikeouts are way down in the small sample. He's interesting for 3,700 with triple position, well, really dual position on FanDuel, dual position catcher and outfield on the DraftKings slate. Makes him super interesting. You can't put him in the same lineup. Well, you can if you use outfield. So you can get him and Bo Naylor in a lineup if you like Bo for a cheap catcher power late in the lineup. But he's been really up and down, let's say, with his production. He has 3 home runs, but just a 183, 264, 278. I greatly prefer the hyper-productive right now David Fry. Manzardo is a capable lefty bat against a mediocre righty, 3,000, 2,800. 200, 245, 320 over 53 plate appearances to start his career. No home runs yet, 120 ISO, 62 WRC+. Plus. Based on who this kid was coming up, I expect the upside to arrive at some point. Coors Field game against this pitcher would be a great spot to do it. I don't really go to him all that often over Josh Naylor on the DraftKings slate. FanDuel, you can obviously get them together, but you're occupying util. It's a nice discount on a capable enough bat at Coors Field, though. Will Brennan, mediocre. Kind of an afterthought. A cheap enough lefty bat to stick into an outfield to complete a stack, but not really a high priority. Doesn't really strike out. Does put the ball in play quite a bit. 39.7% hard hits and a 7.1% barrel. That's where some of the productivity comes from. 151 ISO, though, 86 WRC+. Just hasn't really come together, but unlike in any given slate, Coors Field kind of a day, I do think there's a little bit of upside there. Brian Rocchio, pretty unproductive from the bottom spot. Freeman has been okay. 4 home runs, 7 stolen bases, a 324 on base. Creating runs 3% better than average, but inconsistent in the average, inconsistent for power for premium contact. Jimenez just needs to keep doing what he's doing. 8 stolen bases, 4 home runs, 330 on base, creating runs at a decent clip. Doesn't really strike out, doesn't really walk that much, so a lot of balls in play. Ramirez and Naylor are stars, 15 home runs and 8 stolen bases for Jose Ramirez, who is normalized back to superstardom pretty quickly. 271 ISO, 139 WRC+. And then Naylor, 13 home runs at 250 ISO, 119 WRC+. Just less consistent in terms of the triple slash, but lots of lefty power there. Probably those 4 as priorities, with Manzardo and Freeman on either side of it being pretty playable, and then less playability, but options for cheaper prices there. Rocky's side going up against a gettable McKenzie, I think it's believable. What I would probably want is a couple of the better walk rates. Like, give me Chris Bryant, even with his struggles. 10.7% walks this year, 8.7% last year. I know that Chris Bryant can draw a walk against a scuffling Tristan McKenzie. Brenton Doyle, maybe with the uptick to a 9.1% walk and how productive he's been overall, is probably pretty interesting from down here. 340 on base for the season so far is pretty good. 349 on base out of Elias Diaz. Despite a low walk rate, he's gotten some of that through just bat on ball, and against a fairly low strikeout version of McKenzie, believable upside for the bat on ball skills there. Ryan McMahon's just been really good. He's kind of the obvious guy in this lineup right now if you're going to the Rockies. 11.8% walks to lead the team, or second on the team behind Sean Bouchard in a small sample, I guess I should say. 10.8% walks led this group last year. 370 on base, 10 home runs, 202 ISO. You're not skipping Ryan McMahon all that often if you're stacking Rockies. Tovar, just a 316 on base, definitely doesn't walk, strikes out quite a bit. Capable enough when he puts bat on ball, though. 283, 316, 461, creating runs at a decent clip. 7 homers, 4 steals. Very playable. Charlie Blackmon, just 2 home runs on the season. Not really hitting, not really getting on base that much. 19% worse than average creating runs. But another guy, pretty decent bat-to-ball skills, capable of drawing a walk. So Blackmon's not out of the question off the top. So what I'm looking for is, give me like 2 of the guys that get on base and then some of the power or speed bats around them. And you've got some options for that. Brendan Rodgers, I don't love from the 6 spot, 37, 3,000 across sites. That said, 265, 304, 343. He's been all right. Just not really scoring or creating any runs, not hitting for any kind of power. But the on base it's low, but it's not tragic. The on base should probably be a little higher considering that okay average. Balls in play for a cheap price at Coors Field against a mediocre pitcher is kind of what I'm looking for there. Doyle at 41.38, like I said, capable. 5 home runs, 14 steals. He's been interesting for DFS this season. Sean Bouchard does have a decent bat. 70 plate appearances. Doesn't look like it so far this year. Last year over 43, he hit 4 home runs, 316, 372, 684 in a small sample. Year before was also good in fewer than 100 plate appearances. So some small sample data there, but has been more capable than he's been this year over these 70 plate appearances. And then Montero at the bottom of the lineup. A lot of power lurking in that bat. Just hasn't really arrived at the major league level. 169 pretty weak plate appearances this year. 35-31, at least he's cheap, but occupying first base, maybe not your best overall option. So it's Coors Field. It's pretty much the bats. If you're playing a pitcher, if you're bound and determined to play a pitcher at Coors Field, it's Tristan McKenzie, and it's only on DraftKings. And there's no faith in that upside. Pup likes again. Yeah, Joker liked that one. Yeah, I get what you're saying there, Michael. Michael's saying Coors games haven't been working out. And, some of it is Coors games on the visiting side where the popularity typically is, where the better team typically is. The Rockies have been a little bit frisky at low ownership and low prices in some spots. And the thing is, there's nothing overly predictive about the idea that Coors spots haven't really worked out. Maybe there's some thought to the Rockies pitching has been a little bit more effective, maybe a little bit lucky because they don't strike anybody out really. But a guy like Dakota Hudson, who doesn't give up a ton of home runs in home starts, has a little bit of an impact on that. But by and large, there's not really anything predictive about the fact that they haven't given up those runs, because in the grand sample, and since Coors Field is open, we know it is the most productive park in baseball for run scoring by a pretty wide margin. So you got to look at the broader scale there. Just saying it that they haven't been working out in like the recent run in however many home games they've played this year, and there are spots where it did work out in there. It's just kind of like looking at the roulette wheel and saying like, oh look, red hasn't really come up today, we're going to bet on black, or vice versa. Nothing is predictive in the individual spin of the wheel about what happened in the past at all in roulette. Cool weather doesn't help. Yeah, Trav points out, that's also a good point. It's not been particularly warm, and as we know, baseball offense goes up with warm weather, and that's why you've seen, some of these have come with 9.5, 10-run totals rather than 11 plus like we get in a lot of Coors games. Today is 10.5, I think. Yeah, 10.5. But that's the highest mark on the board by a run and a half over the next game. So you can see, even with, this is correct. And if it doesn't work out today, it's still correct. It's the fun part of this. It doesn't have to actually happen for it to have still been correct, which I know is a strange concept. All right. Apparently Nathan Eovaldi is starting now for the Rangers, and Evan Carter is going on the IL. So I guess he's not going to be hitting at the bottom of that lineup. Alrighty. Eovaldi. Gonna have to go back to that real quick. That just dropped like 7-8 minutes ago. So that puts another interesting pitcher on the board on DraftKings. 8,600 over there. He's 10-1 on FanDuel. He's not uninteresting on FanDuel, but he's just kind of another guy here. I'll resort. When did he last pitch? I got to make sure he's on full rest. Oh, he hasn't gone since the 2nd. I'd forgotten that. Skipping rehab. All right, let's I'm going to unwind that a little bit, because that's a 6-inning projection. I don't know that we're getting 6 innings out of Eovaldi. It's probably going to be limited. Let's call it 5 if he's going well. 80-ish pitches is a guess. The fact that he's been out since May 5th and did not make any rehab starts coming off of a strained groin feels like it's going to be a short start. Dallas Morning News won't let me open this article. There we go. It's nothing about a pitch count anywhere, but I can't imagine we're getting a full start here. So even at that discounted DraftKings price, I guess if you wanted to roll the dice, it's probably more like a projection in like this range. So put him at this level at 86 makes it a lot less appealing. I think he's off the board at 10-1 on FanDuel. I don't think we're getting the depth. It's 5 o'clock. So let's get through this, and I got obviously some updates to make on the website at this point. Somebody mentioned LeMahieu in the 9 spot from the Yankees. I still have not seen that confirmed. outside of FanDuel, and they've had it, like I said at the top of the show, outside of FanDuel, it's pretty much all, outside of FanDuel, I didn't see it. And FanDuel's had that locked in since like this morning. So I think FanDuel just kind of made a mistake and put that as the confirmed Yankees lineup, unless it's come out. I do expect DJ's going to be in there and probably hitting ninth. But Travis Duarte, did you actually see a confirmed Yankees lineup out there? Other than on FanDuel? Because I haven't seen it yet. Anyway, the Yankees look pretty spectacular here going up against Griff Canning. I do not think that Griff Canning is worth an option on the either slate. Even at 5,500 on DraftKings, just doesn't seem like a smart idea. You can see Aaron Judge at 17.24 in the home run model, Juan Soto at 14.87, 13.04 for Giancarlo Stanton, Anthony Rizzo checking in at 9.4, Glaber at 8.07, Volpe at 8.26. Weird spot there with 5.95 in the cleanup spot for Verdugo, but he doesn't hit a ton of home runs. That said, still 7 on the season, a 170 ISO, capable of hitting a home run against a pitcher like this, especially as a lefty bat against this pitcher. Lefties get power for days against Canning, but righties get a pretty good amount of power as well. 91.4 miles an hour of exit velo, all told, 41.1% hard hits, 18-degree average launch angle, 9.8% barrels, 4.04% home runs this season. Strikeouts are way down at 16.1%. He's walking too many at 9.4%. 5.05 ERA, a 5.15 xFIP. Absolutely, positively a killer spot for the Yankees. Canning's last start against Houston, 2 home runs, 2 strikeouts, 3 walks, just 2 earned runs over 5 innings. He hasn't been bad in terms of earned runs. 2 earned runs in that one, just 1 earned run to St. Louis over 6, struck out 5, walked 3, gave up a homer. 5 2/3 of shutout ball, allowed just 3 hits to the Royals, struck out just 3, walked 2. 2 earned runs in the start against Cleveland, gave up a homer in that one. 4 earned runs, no homer against Philly in 5 innings. A 2 home run game, a 3 home run game in his ledger this season. Was bad for power last year. Totally gettable here. 5.05 ERA. Again, he hasn't been tragic for earned runs in most of these starts, but he hasn't been good on the whole. 3 or 4 earned runs in most of these starts. High of 6. Actually feels like a 5.05 ERA is a little bit out of whack. I don't know how that math actually checks out, but I guess it does. I updated the stats today. I know this is the correct number, but now I got to check because I'm looking at that. It doesn't seem like it would add up to a 5.05 ERA, but it does. His 5.05 ERA exactly matches his expected ERA at 5.05. The xFIP at 5.15. Sierra, where the hell's Sierra on here? 5.05. So I guess his 5.05 ERA is exactly correct. Fire away with Yankees bats. Volpe's cheap off the top, 4,500 and 3,000 across sites at shortstop. 6 home runs, 11 steals. Even if he drops in the lineup in favor of LeMahieu in that spot, Volpe's still very effective from wherever he's going to be. And if he's in that top spot, getting on at a 355 clip ahead of Soto and Judge, it's just one of the best spots in all of baseball. Soto and Judge, absolutely just mash. Even at price 63.44 for Soto, 61.46 for Judge. Judge has 17 home runs, a 350 ISO, 350. That's insane. A 410 on base. The idea that you have a player who gets on base like he does and draws walks like he does with all that power, he's just incredible. Soto, 408 on base, drawing a 14.4% walk rate, only strikes out at a 15.6% clip. He's got 14 home runs, 262 ISO, 178 WRC plus. Back-to-back, those guys, it's just, if not the best, it's right there with the best duos in baseball. Verdugo, ton of bat on ball skills, a little bit of power, low strikeout, balls in play, very productive from the 4 spot. Stanton, not far behind the other guys in terms of power upside. You can see it in the premium contact numbers. More hard hit balls in the StatCast era and the most hard hit balls, like the degree to which they were hard hit has been the highest in the StatCast era. He's got 13 home runs on the season, a 263 ISO. Just mashes when he makes contact. Don't worry about 32.5% strikeouts. That'll put some zeros in your lineup, but the upside is significant with Stanton. 13.04 in the home run model. Rizzo, 45, 3,000 again. Lefties murder this pitcher for power. Definitely an interesting day for Anthony Rizzo at those prices. I could see him being a little bit under-owned for his upside here. Verdugo and Rizzo are both interesting in this lineup. Austin Wells is also kind of interesting if he's catching today. Very low strikeout, very high walk, lot of premium contact. Last year in a small sample, 13.8% barrels, 41.4% hard hits with 18.7% strikeouts and 4% walks. This year it's 15.2% strikeouts and 12.4% walks. The contact has been lowered in a small sample of batted ball events, but I like the upside as long as he keeps making that much consistent contact. I like the power upside to return. So another interesting lefty against this pitcher. DJ, if he's in the bottom of the lineup, has been lost for like 2 straight seasons. Did hit 15 home runs last year, but just 243, 327, 390, just barely above average for run creation. Year before had a 116 WRC plus, still got on at a 357 clip. He was more DJ LeMahieu like this year than this year, but hasn't really been the old DJ LeMahieu. Now he's just kind of looking like the old DJ LeMahieu. Probably prefer Rizzo at first for 45, but if you need the discount, DJ's definitely in play. And he's an interesting enough wraparound if those on-base skills are on display today, considering that he comes back around to these guys. Not a bad option. Third base and first base for only 28. Same thing on FanDuel. Angels going up against Nestor Cortez. I do like Nestor here. 9,500, 9,000, pitching very well. 23.9% strikeouts against a 3.29 ERA with a 3.96 xFIP, a very low walk rate, good for whip. 11.1% swinging strikes, capable of punching his way out of any trouble that he gets into. Limiting power fairly effectively, despite a high launch angle, despite a decent amount of hard hits and exit velo. Hasn't resulted in a lot of home runs because he keeps barrels in check. A little bit of happenstance, a little bit of luck in that, but that's part of his game. And that's what I meant earlier when I said that Stuff Plus doesn't really like him. 2.5 points below average by Stuff Plus. But that doesn't really account for his the way that he gives hitters hiccups with timing. Changes up the release angle, changes up the arm speed, changes up his release point, changes up the actual motion on the mound. He had one where he threw a fake pitch earlier in the season. He went like this and then threw the actual pitch. He does all kinds of creative shit on the mound that Stuff Plus doesn't really account for, that really keeps hitters off balance. So I think that's where some of that ability to limit barrels comes from. He's more difficult to square up than maybe the numbers can account for if we're just looking at certain things. So I think it is kind of the picture of the whole. He's going up against a scuffling Angels team that is, got some interesting kids in the lineup who are not really kids anymore. Guys like Joe Adell, it's his time to actually stick or get off the pot, as they say. 10 home runs on the season, a 113 WRC plus, 265 ISO for him over 152. He's been very good. Just a matter of whether he can keep it rolling. And the triple slash is already diminishing pretty quickly. Taylor Ward's their best player, 11 home runs for him, 2 stolen bases, a 209 ISO, 127 WRC plus. Kevin Pillar's been really good, over 89 plate appearances. We know he's not that good, though. Little bit of pop. 15, 20 home run guy, right-handed bat for a fair price. You can go to Kevin Pillar, but he's not a star caliber player. 329, 385, 595. Had to put a little pause in between he's not and a star because I didn't want to be like, Kevin Pillar, he's not a star. Rengifo off the top, Nolan Shanuel. Interesting enough hitters if you're going to this team. Rengifo, 4 home runs, 12 steals. He's a productive player, 148 WRC plus. He plays 3 positions on FanDuel. He's always interesting in stacks. He's a capable enough one-off to get to, but he's not really priced at a super discount on FanDuel. 46, not really a gigantic discount on DraftKings second and third base. A playable utility type, though. Shanuel, just 238, 307, 349, 88 WRC plus. Does have 5 homers. Lefty. We'll see if he's hitting in that top spot at all. Logan O'Hoppe, a little bit of right-handed catcher power there. Neto, Cole Tucker, Kyron Paris, fairly weak down the bottom end of the lineup. So I like the upside for Nestor. I really do. Michael Knack's calling for the Juan Soto bomb. Andy Melman's adding the Gleyber Torres bomb to that. I love it. Let's get him. Dennis points out, the change from the Texas pitcher definitely going to impact the Diamondbacks projections, and probably did. I forgot to show that part. So this one is Yankees bats, gigantic yes, great opportunity for them. Nestor Cortez, pretty big yes, 95, 9,000, willing to pay it, but he is just kind of in the mix with a lot of other guys. Griff Canning, gigantic no. Angels bats, only in like a contrarian hedge kind of a contrarian, not hedge, cheap, low owned kind of a sense. Yeah, so you can see dip in power output for the Diamondbacks. Still 3 guys above 7, but some of the ancillary guys have come down a little bit further. Corbin Carroll, maybe not even believable at 7 at this point. Jock and Christian Walker remain the 2 most interesting power bats with Ketel Marte. It's still a good 3-man there. Pevin Smith, Jake McCarthy still playable lefties against Eovaldi. And you're probably getting into this Texas bullpen then. You get 4 innings out of Eovaldi. He comes out, get into the bullpen. It's not going to be Dane Dunning out of the pen. They're going to start him tomorrow because they're really depleted in the starting rotation like we looked at the other day. Gettable enough options out of the pen. It's not a major downgrade, but Eovaldi's definitely a better pitcher if he was going full bore here. 26.2% strikeouts over 7 starts, 41 and a third. A tremendous 14.4% swinging with a 30.1% CSW. Has been good at limiting premium contact and power and keeping launch angle down. It's just the fact that he won't make a full start. If I had a guarantee of even 5 innings, I'd be moderately interested at 86. If I had upside to a possible 6th inning, he'd be very interesting at that price. This price, he'd still be a little bit shaky, but that price would be interesting. I just don't think we're getting more than like 4 and change. 3 games to go. Coming up on just 5:16. We're doing okay against the 7:20 start time. 3:30 start. We're flying through this show. Congratulations, guys. Michael Knack, I appreciate that, buddy. Hit the like button for, I won't say it, but Michael Knack did. Hit the like button, though. Hit the subscribe if you haven't already. You get the notifications for our weird start times. Jump into the Discord. If we need a Discord invite, just somebody let me know in the chat. Let me just grab it and drop it into the chat. Just in case there's somebody shy in there who doesn't talk on YouTube chat but loves to comment in Discords. Hop into our Discord. Let's hear from you. Share your winning screenshots. Sound like Bob Wawa. Share your winning screenshots in the Discord. Send them out on Twitter if you get a chance. Follow the @rotoscouts Twitter handle. When you see stuff pop up from that, give it a little like, a little retweet. It helps spread the word a little bit. Info about our pals over at Ace Mind and kickback info down in the description below. Put it up on that little banner one more time just because look at that. acemind.io for all your optimization and simulation needs. I'll let that scroll for a minute while I talk about Jesus Luzardo going at 8,000 on DraftKings, 9,600 on FanDuel. Interesting enough. Like I said, I think that the Padres are capable enough of getting to him on the other side of this to the point where for those prices, they might be somewhat interesting if they're at low ownership against Luzardo, but he's very talented. 4.14 ERA, a 3.73 xFIP, 25.3% strikeouts with a monster 15% swinging strike rate. That is an immense number. 29.9% CSW. He's given up a little bit of premium contact, 19.1 degree average launch. He is a fly ball pitcher, 10.7% barrels, 90.7 miles an hour of exit velo. It's only amounted to 2.75% home runs so far in 45 2/3 over 8 starts, but maybe a little bit more gettable for power than that. On similar numbers last year, he managed it fairly effectively, 2.97%. Year before, same thing. Pretty effective management of home run upside. When you're getting that many swinging strikes like he does, you're just keeping hitters off balance with your strikeout stuff. So another pitcher who it's, despite some barrels and some exit velo, pretty difficult to hit home runs against. Not impossible. Has given some up, but not the most gettable guy in the world. You can see Manny Machado, 9.06. Fernando Tatis, 11.29. He's difficult to suppress overall for power upside. But neither one of those guys running off and hiding on the home run model. Only Tatis above average. And then everybody else below 5.43 is the next high. That's Luis Campusano down lineup. Playable enough spot, I think, on both sides for that one. 8,000, I think, is a very, very good price for Jesus Luzardo's ceiling in this start. Shut off the ticker. 8 innings last time out, 6 innings in the start before that, 5 2/3, 6 innings in the 2 starts before that. Handful of strikeouts in each game. Hasn't given up an earned run in his last 2 starts. 8 hits combined over those 14 innings with 11 strikeouts, no walks. That was against the Mets and against the Brewers. Struck out 8 Phillies, didn't give up a home run in that game. 2 earned runs, 4 hits over 5 2/3. Has not given up a home run in his last 4 starts. 8,000 for Luzardo is an excellent price. He's in play easily on DraftKings. I think he's playable enough on FanDuel at 96. It's just you do have, again, a lot of options in that range. But he projects right with these guys. On the other side, Matt Waldron, 6,200 on DraftKings. Playable. It is a gettable Marlins lineup. You can see some power coming through for them, though. I think that's what makes them a little bit potentially sneaky, potentially interesting. It's just weird numbers against knuckleballers. 8.1% barrel rate, 2.71% home runs, just 87.6 miles an hour of exit velo, and 31.5% hard hits. You've got to really square up a knuckleball to hit it for a home run because it comes in at 68 miles an hour. So it is difficult to hit those pitches for home runs. This other stuff, maybe a little bit gettable. 50 innings, 10 starts. Hasn't been bad, hasn't been great. 4.86 ERA, but a 4.03 xFIP. Just 8.7% swinging strikes, 27.4% CSW. Puts a lot of guys on base. Fairly elevated walk rate, 23.5% strikeouts is all right. Had a stretch of games, 5 games in a row in the heart of the season so far. Gave up 1 home run in each of them. Didn't give up a home run in each of his last 2 starts. Those came, funnily enough, against the Braves at Atlanta and against the Reds at Cincinnati. Against the Braves, he struck out 10, walked 2, gave up just 1 earned on 5 hits, over 5 2/3, one of his better starts of the year. 7 strikeouts, 2 walks, 2 earned on 6 hits, over 5 innings against Cincinnati. Capable of doing that to this Marlins team, or better. But I think it makes the Marlins a little bit interesting and frisky. I don't know that they hit home runs, but the idea that the home run model shows some power upside just can also translate to doubles. It's a pitcher's park. It's not easy to hit home runs, but you can square up a double against a knuckleball. The Marlins are not a priority, but they are cheap. They're probably going to be lowish owned. They're at least frisky and on the board. That said, they've been one of the worst producing teams in the league. Some of the other low-end teams have been more productive than them. But I think they are the one with more interesting bats compared to some of the, compared to the White Sox of the world. Jazz Chisholm, Brian De La Cruz, Josh Bell, Jesus Sanchez, Jake Berger. Those 5 guys, anyway, are more interesting than anything the White Sox have to offer today. Jazz for 47.31, cheap enough. 8 home runs, 10 steals, a 124 WRC+, plus, a 191 ISO. There's strikeouts there, but it's down 30.7% last year, down to 24.8% this year. He's pushed the walks up a little bit. He's making similar contact as he did last year. Made better contact 2 years ago. A lot of upside for Jazz Chisholm Jr. from the top of the lineup. Good lefty bat. Brian De La Cruz, 37.28. Fair price for a guy who's got 9 home runs, a 166 ISO, 109 WRC plus this year. He's no star, but against this pitcher, he doesn't need to be. Josh Bell, 36.28. That's a little bit rough. 223, 303, 350, 89 WRC plus. Does have 6 homers on the season. Making okay contact. Needs more barrels. Needs to find that power stroke again. Could be a good spot for him to find it. Sanchez for 3,300, 2,400. We looked the other day at the gigantic dip in his strikeout rate year over year. And as I mentioned the other day, that's one that I want to watch because this kid has always been capable of mashing the ball when he makes contact. It's just he always struck out too much, swung and missed too much. And is never able to stay in the lineup consistently either with injuries. But last year, 14 homers and 402 plate appearances with a 197 ISO. Year before, 13 homers and 343 with a 180, whatever that says, ISO. So has shown some capability in moderate amounts of plate appearances of hitting for power from the left side. And if the strikeouts are going to maintain down here, he becomes a much more interesting hitter. So I think it's a potentially, unless this is a blip, potentially it's a get him while he's cheap kind of a spot. 33.24 is very, very cheap, especially hitting cleanup behind these guys. Jake Berger, 10.24 on the home run model. He's got 4 on the season, just a 121 ISO. Sub Mendoza, 227 on base, is one of the worst on base percentages in the league. Jake Berger has not been good this year, but he's been a very good right-handed power bat in the past, including last year. 34 home runs and 540 plate appearances last year. 268 ISO, 120 WRC plus. Any given slate, Jake Berger is going to be able to get back to that level of talent against a pitcher who's going to throw some hittable balls up there against him. There's upside. Then we get to the kind of weak part of the Marlins lineup with Nick Gordon, Timmy Anderson, both of whom have been mostly dead this season. Gordon at least has 5 home runs, 3 steals. Tim Anderson really hasn't done anything. Over 150 plate appearances. He's stolen 3 bases, gotten on at a 240 clip. We're creating runs 66% worse than average with a 203 average. That is not the Tim Anderson that used to play in the majors. Feel like he got body swapped out of the league here. Otto Lopez, 3,000, 2,500. Capable enough, I guess, if you're dipping to the bottom of the lineup. That's probably your guy. Over 76 plate appearances. He's been productive. 112 WRC plus, couple homers, couple steals. Nick Fortes, kind of an afterthought at catcher. A little bit of right-handed pop from time to time. 2 home runs in 102 plate appearances. It's about right. Last year hit 6 in 323. Year before had 9 in 240. That was the odd output for Fortes. Padres bats, if you're going there against Luzardo, capable. I do think that they're going to be underappreciated here, but again, Luzardo is probably my favored side of that. But it's close. It's a spot if I, especially at 8,000 on DraftKings, if I got carried away with Luzardo shares, I would definitely want to hedge with some Padres. Showing enough power through the key guys. A tremendous hitter like Luis Arias off the top of the lineup. He's at 333, 372, 408. Creating runs 28% better than average. Hits ahead of Fernando Tatis. You compare those guys pretty affordably on both sites. Tatis, 9 homers, 6 steals, 119 WRC+. Jerkson Profar, no signs of slowing down still. 319, 418, 482, creating runs 65% better than average. 7 homers, 3 steals. He's only okay. I promise by the end of the season, I mean, I don't promise anymore because he's maintained it over 225, but I'm still pretty sure by the end of the season that's going to normalize a little bit. But he is low strikeout. He is drawing more walks than he has in the past. He's making better contact than he has in the past. There's believability here. I just think it's more Leody Taveras than it is this guy, this star caliber player. Manny Machado, 47.32 is cheap for Manny Machado. 5 home runs on the season, just a 127 ISO on 91 WRC+. Still, a 49% hard hit rate. Strikeouts are up a little, walks are down a little, barrels are down a little. I'm convinced, gonna round into form. Cronenworth down to 271, 338, 468. Does have 8 homers, 134 WRC+. Maintaining decent contact, low strikeout, capable of putting the ball in play. Donovan Solano, another very low strikeout option at 14.7% in just 34 plate appearances. Last year was 22.2% over a bigger sample. Capable of putting bat on ball. Plays 3 positions on FanDuel, 2 on DraftKings for very cheap prices. Campusano, playable enough catcher, a little bit of power there. Jackson Merrill has been good over 191 rookie plate appearances, creating runs 2% worse than average, but 3 home runs, 7 steals, 275, 316, 360 for a guy who hits down here for a cheap price in the lineup. Totally playable. Ha-Sung Kim, lousy season from him in terms of the triple slash. The on base is okay. The run creation's okay. 6 homers, 13 steals is okay, but we expect more from Kim, and I expect him to turn it on at some point. I really do. So capable enough 1 through 9, basically. But Luzardo at 8,000, that's a bargain price. Luzardo on DraftKings, followed by Padres bats overall, followed by Luzardo on FanDuel. Then probably Matt Waldron on DraftKings, but not on FanDuel at all. And then Marlins bats on the other side of that. Maybe I would flip those two, actually. I might be more interested in Marlins bats than Matt Waldron on DraftKings. I don't think they're good, but I think they could be low-owned, cheap, and sneaky. Mostly focusing on the top 5. 2 games to go. Luis Castillo, Hunter Brown. I promised we would get to Luis Castillo eventually. 65 and a third over 11 starts. He's got a 25.6% strikeout rate. 3.31 ERA with a 3.57 xFIP. Stuff Plus has dipped a little bit, just slightly below league average for the entire arsenal, but we know that Luis Castillo has been a tremendous pitcher over time. 3.34 ERA with a 3.81 xFIP, 27.3% strikeouts in 33 starts last year. In 25 starts the year before, a 2.99 with a 3.23 and a 27.2% strikeout rate. He's a terrific high-end pitcher. Last start, just 3 strikeouts, 5 innings, gave up 2 earned runs on 7 hits to the Yanks. Start before that, faced Baltimore, 2 strikeouts, 4 walks, 2 earned runs, 4 hits over 6. Before that, a couple much stronger starts against Oakland and against the Twins. That said, gave up 2 earned runs in each of those as well. That's 2 earned runs exactly in 4 straight starts. But those were higher strikeout games. Pitches deep into ball games, by and large. Has had some very, very good starts. 7 innings against the Braves at the end of April. Struck out 7, walked 1, 3 hits, no runs. He gave up an odd 4 earned runs exactly in each of his first 3 starts. Since then, he's given up either 2 earned runs or no earned runs in every start. Exactly 2 earned or exactly none. So I think, if we're off, we're certainly not far off. It's definitely baked into the discount on both sites at 9,200. Probably a little bit more appealing at that price on DraftKings, but tons and tons of upside for the quality start. Tons of upside for the win here with the Mariners facing Hunter Brown. That said, on the Hunter Brown note, I do think he's in play. 6,500, 7,400. any of his scuffling is kind of baked into that price against this up and down Mariners team with all these strikeouts in the lineup. Projected version of the Mariners lineup has a 27.1% strikeout rate on the season. We'll leave out the 37.1 by Jonathan Klaas, and it comes down to 25.9% for the guys with bigger samples. That is a lot of strikeouts. The Mariners have not been good this season. Hunter Brown himself has not been good. He's got a 7.06 ERA. The 4.20 xFIP is the much more honest number. It takes the home runs out of the equation. Gave up a homer last game, 2 home runs the game before that, a home run the game before that. Pitched an okay game over 4 1/3 against this same Seattle team back on May 5th. No home runs allowed, struck out 5, but walked 4, 5 hits, 2 earned runs. 2 home runs in the game before that to Cleveland. 3 straight games with home runs allowed and kind of messy for earned runs early in the season. Some decent strikeout totals in the mix. Some low-scoring games in the mix. He's just got a few really bad blips. A 5 earned run game in his second start of the year against Texas. A 9 earned run game against Kansas City in his third start of the year. Just went 2/3 of an inning in that one. That was the total disaster in terms of the ERA. It takes a while to recover the ERA from that. Since that game, he's got the one messy start against Cleveland where he gave up the 2 home runs, 6 earned runs on 5 hits. Struck out 7 in that game, went 5 1/3. It hasn't been all that bad for Hunter Brown. I think a lot of it is explained in the xFIP. He needs to walk fewer guys. He needs to find more strikeouts. 9.5% swinging strike rate. That's down from 10.6 last year. CSW is down a little bit. He had a 26.8% strikeout rate last year as a rookie over 155 2/3 in 29 starts. I like him to get back to this kind of a, maybe not all the way back, but 24, 25% strikeouts at least this season. Was better for limiting walks last year. Had a 5.09 ERA, but a 3.52 xFIP. Similar issues with power last year. It's not a total mystery where the power is coming from. But that said, even with the blips for home runs, it's largely on mistakes. 10.7 degree average launch is not egregious. Neither is the hard hit rate or the exit velo. Neither is the barrel rate. So I think he's underperformed. I think he's made some mistakes along the way, but I think he is a capable high-end pitcher. 104.08 for the full arsenal by Stuff Plus puts him above average. I think he's worth rolling the dice on against a team that we've just been pounding with starting pitching this year. There's upside for these prices. You can see it in the projection. So could easily go pop. You could have a 2 home run day on the other side for the Mariners. They're showing some power against. Cal Raleigh and Julio both in the 9s. You get Luke Raley at 7.46. But all those guys are struggling. All those guys are high strikeout. If you're going to bats, the Astros are greatly preferred going up against Castillo, I should say it that way. They're just the easily better team between these two. Altuve has 9 home runs. Kyle Tucker's got 18 home runs. He's got as many home runs as Altuve and Jordan Alvarez combined. 9 home runs apiece for the bookends, 18 home runs in the middle of what is a super high quality sandwich at the top of the Astros lineup. 57, 65, 56 for those 3 players on DraftKings, 39, 45, 38 on FanDuel. They're pricey, but they're worth it. Even against Castillo, that's a very playable trio. Alex Bregman, 4,200, 2,800, 4 home runs. The bounce back has yet to arrive. We thought maybe when he hit those 3 home runs in 3 days or whatever it was, or 2 days. We're still kind of mired in a season-long slump. That said, very low strikeout, puts the ball in play, can hit it harder than he has been hitting it. Very cheap for his talent level. I'm not convinced he's totally gone. Jeremy Pena, cheap for his output so far this year, 5 home runs, 7 steals, 126 WRC+, still cost just $44.32. I feel like he's underpriced. 33.27 for a productive Jake Myers. Quietly slashing 300, 373, 525 with a 225 ISO and 6 home runs over 135. Jake Myers has been really good in his limited opportunities. John Singleton is all right at first base, a little bit of lefty power. He's got 5 home runs on the season. High strikeout, limited option. Jainer Diaz has really cooled off, 255, 286, 370. Still a capable bat from late in the lineup, but needs to turn it back on again. Jose Abreu, if he's back in the lineup, pretty unplayable. I prefer a lot of other options in this lineup. We'll see what we get in the lineup, but Astros top end at least is always in play. It's just a really bad matchup against Castillo. On the Mariners side, you'd get the better matchup with the Mariners going up against Hunter Brown and his scuffles for power, his less effective strikeout stuff, but I kind of prefer his side given where he's priced. That said, J.P. Crawford off the top, has been bad this year. 93 WRC plus, only 3 home runs, 217, 308, 339. Doesn't steal bases or do anything else. So if he's not getting on base, if he's not hitting for average, not providing much power or run creation, kind of miscast in the leadoff spot, but at least he's an effective enough lefty who is capable of driving the ball. Dylan Moore has been pretty good since I said he wasn't as good as Josh Rojas the other day. He's got 6 home runs and 8 stolen bases, 239 ISO over 162. He fills 4 positions on FanDuel for 32, 4,000 on DraftKings at third base or shortstop. I still don't think he's as good as he's maybe getting credit for right now, but he's been frisky. Raley at 35-25, a little bit of lefty pop, 4 home runs, 4 steals, a 111 WRC plus. Cal Raleigh does have a tremendous amount of power. 16.3% barrels and 56.7% hard hits this season. It's amounted to 11 home runs and a 222 ISO. Creating runs 6% better than average because he's getting on at just a 283 clip with a 210 average. Also striking out nearly 35% of the time. But a very capable power bat against a pitcher who's had some issues with home runs. Julio, 50.3% hard hits, 8.4% barrels. Still crushes the ball when he touches it. 233 plate appearances. He's at 265, 309, 342. Hopefully we hit rock bottom and we're turning back up the other way. 13 stolen bases, only a 92 WRC plus. But as I've said a couple times, this did happen at the beginning of last season too. It might not have been as extended a struggle, but he definitely scuffled the beginning of last season and normalized to fantastic numbers. So we're probably on the upswing again. 2,900, 2,400. I feel, 5,000, 3,300. I was going to say that's crazy cheap. 5,000, 3,300. I feel like it's still a get him while he's cheap spot. Ken Zone, Ty France, Josh Rojas, Jonathan Klass. Mix and match parts from the bottom of the lineup. Rojas has been good at 281, 346, 417. Creating runs 24% better than average. 3 homers, 4 steals. Maybe he's not the talent that Dylan Moore is up the top of the lineup, but he's been very productive. Ty France, I'm trying to challenge Josh Rojas now. Ty France, 244, 305, 383, a 101 WRC plus. Better with the bat than that. He's hit for a little bit more power this year in a weird twist. 6 home runs, 41.8% hard hits. Typically lower strikeout, more bat on ball, more of a contact skill. Playable, but not a priority in lineups. And then Klass is an afterthought. Castillo, Hunter Brown for the discount. I might actually even flip that, to be honest. Hunter Brown for the discount. Top of the board here. 65.74. He's just super cheap. He's in my placeholder on FanDuel right now at that price. I think we can get 6 on a good day. I think we can rack up a nice strikeout total on a good day. On a bad day, it's going to go completely bust. It's going to fail, but we know that. There is good day upside here. So Hunter Brown for cheap. Luis Castillo right there for a very effective and discounted price. Just a really tough matchup against the Astros. Astros bats way above the Mariners bats, but I would definitely hedge anything that I did with Hunter Brown unless I'm just building one lineup. Definitely going to hedge with some Mariners bats. Last game up, we did it, gang. Oh, I missed a lot of chat. Mama says Bichette should be 20% owned today. I will lock him if he stays at 10%. Yeah, that seems like very low ownership. I like that. Trey's here. Trey's dropping in to say hi. Despite the injuries, Braves lineup is still legit and will get hot. I agree. I like that Braves lineup a lot today. Morton last night. Yeah. Somebody posted a funny comment in the Discord just saying, where do I get my my sticker for having survived Charlie Morton's Memorial Day start? Something along those lines. Hi, Don. I'm guessing that's not Don. It's probably don't. Like, don't play I'm a black man living in a white man's world asks, hello, can I ask for some help with my 1-game entry in DFS baseball today? Absolutely. What is your question? I mean, if you just want, if the question is just I need help, rewind back to the beginning of the show, play it on 2x speed, and hopefully you get the help you need. If you have a specific question, though, I'm happy to answer and happy to try and help. Unreleased lo-fi music. How rich is Hunter Brown going to make me tonight? Hopefully just only slightly less rich than me. Michael Knack, no super chats enabled yet. I got to look into how that happens on YouTube. I assume we're qualified for it at this point, but I haven't set it up. That's probably going to be part of my project to set things up and get a little monetization going. There is some kickback info, though, if you drop down to the description, or it was in that banner that I had up a minute ago. I'll pop that back up there real quick. That's just my direct PayPal, Venmo, Cash App stuff. If you want to shoot something over, it's appreciated. I'll apply anything that gets sent in now toward any kind of subscriptions that pop up. Any subscriptions that pop up are going to be $1 a day or less. That is my target, keeping things at a reasonable price because I think that's where things should be in this industry, as we've discussed before. But we do need to monetize a little bit, so I appreciate anything that you guys want to do there. No judgment if you don't. Totally get it. Mama says, Yankees, I have a 50K home run parlay. I think Canning is due for lots of regression according to the Terry logic for pitchers. Is that accurate? Canning regression? Canning is an absolute target for home run upside for the Yankees today. Love it. I don't know what your parlay looks like there, but it sounds like a pretty killer spot. Might want to get in on it. Oops. Should probably click on the Yankees if I wanted to show that. You can see 3 guys, and the 3 obvious guys tremendously above the magic number for home runs. And then like everybody else just kind of joining the party a little bit below the magic number. In a better year, Rizzo and Glaber would both be over the magic number. Rizzo actually, if I moved Rizzo to here, he would probably crack it. Oh, weird. It doesn't change. That's supposed to change. It's probably, oh no, it's not changing because it's drawing it from somewhere else in the actual projection. I can't just type it in here. I got to change it on the back end if I'm going to do that. We're not going to go that far. But it would go up higher based on more plate appearances there. Might even crack the magic number. Lefty's very good against Griff Canning for power, but everybody is good for power against Griff Canning. So love it. Trey says, I kind of like a shot on Cannon with that price too. I assume you mean Canning, and I think you had it right when you said Cannon because it's going to be like the ball is coming out of a cannon off those Yankees bats and into the seats against him. Cue the 9-inning Griff Canning no-hitter. Kyle Schwarber off the top, drawing a slate leading 19.16, but that's only if Spencer Howard is pitching in this game. I don't know if we've gotten word on that yet. Let's see. A lot of wild cards with pitching today. Doesn't look like. Let's see if we've gotten the transaction. Like I said at the top of the show, Sacramento only an hour and a half away, and this game not till the end of the night, so they could potentially wait on it. But you'd like to think. No, wait. Transactions. It's probably just a straight bullpen game. Yeah, still no transaction. They need to make a roster move to get Spencer Howard up to the team if he's going to be the bulk reliever tonight. Regardless, I'm telling you for sure that Eric Miller is not going to be in play because he is not going to pitch more than like an inning. He's just a straight opener today. Then it does matter to some degree what comes out of the bullpen. Like I said, these numbers are right now geared up against Spencer Howard because that's who we suspect was going to get this spot, but I'm becoming more and more skeptical about that. Eric Miller just pitched yesterday. He went an inning. He also pitched previously on the 23rd. That was an opener appearance. He went an inning and 2/3 in that one, gave up an earned run, struck out 3, gave up a home run. That was against the Pirates. But the fact that he went an inning just yesterday probably limits him to just an inning today. I don't think we even get him out there for the second inning. So it's really just they're throwing a lefty at Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper in the first inning and hoping for the best. Either one of these guys is absolutely capable of hitting this lefty. Eric Miller's 26. He's thrown 24 and 2/3 innings in the show over 26 appearances. 4.38 ERA with a 3.47 xFIP. 31% strikeout rate, but a 14% walk rate. He's given up 5 home runs to 100 hitters, which is a pretty high home run rate. So I think these numbers basically hold, even with the lefty-lefty for Schwarber and Harper. Still like the opportunity for the top of the Phillies lineup. JT Realmuto, obviously no concerns about him with the lefty opener. And then we're probably just going to the bullpen. It might be, like a Taylor Rogers or somebody like that coming out of the bullpen. What's their usage look like? Taylor Rogers went 17 pitches on Saturday, 22 last Thursday. Hasn't pitched in 2 days. Probably an option. Tyler Rogers threw 16 pitches just on Sunday. Eric Miller threw 14 pitches in his appearance last night and is opening this game. Doval, Ryan Walker, and Randy Rodriguez. Rodriguez would be an option for a bulk relief, but he threw 33 pitches on Saturday and then another 16 last night, so I don't think we see him. I don't think we see Ryan Walker. He's thrown 19 and 17 the last 2 days straight. So it might just be stringing together like Sean Helly, Taylor and Tyler Rogers, Luke Jackson after Eric Miller if it's not going to be Spencer Howard coming up. Seems like a pretty similarly targetable spot for the Phillies. Maybe a minor downgrade if you go to some of those better bullpen arms. Like, I would rather have Spencer Howard come in bulk relief if I'm looking at Phillies upside than a pure bullpen game, but I don't think they're that diminished by a pure bullpen game. Looks like a pretty killer spot. Love Harper, 6,000, 3,900. Think it's totally appropriate. 13 home runs on the season, a 152 WRC plus, 123 WRC plus for JT Realmuto. Very, very playable catcher for 5,200. Probably a little cheap for the output that we've gotten from him this year on DraftKings. 287, 330, 455, 7 home runs. Mashing when he makes contact. Really like Realmuto for this price if he's hitting up here on DraftKings. Schwarber, believable home run market at a monster 19.16. He's got 10 on the season, just a 171 ISO. Hasn't quite been himself in terms of output, but the premium contact, the barrels are down a little bit, but the hard hits are up and similar to what they've been in years past. Like the upside for Schwarber any given slate. Alec Bohm, 59.36, has been excellent this season. We're paying a tax for the production so far this year at 59 on DraftKings for sure. 36 probably about right on FanDuel. 5 home runs, 311, 367, 495. Hasn't really slowed down. Bryson Stott, 51.31. Even if you get him against the lefty opener, like let's say there's a couple hits here and the lefty stays in the game to try and finish out the inning, Stott's perfectly effective in that situation. He's very low strikeout, does draw some walks, 5 home runs, 13 stolen bases, a 118 WRC plus. I don't sweat the opener situation there, and I love him the rest of the way for a fair price in the middle infield. Castellanos, Brandon Marsh, Edmundo Sosa, and Johan Rojas from the bottom of the lineup. Sosa has been kind of underrated in his 87 plate appearances. 316, 395, 605 with a 289 ISO and 3 home runs. 13% barrels, 48.1% hard hits. Not exactly sure where it's coming from, but that's a really good 87 plate appearances. He's not been priced up for it, so I think you can jump on that and try and ride the wave a little. Castellanos is cheap for his upside, but the upside hasn't really been there most of this season. 6 home runs, sub Mendoza, 264 on base, the weakest run creation marker among regulars on this team. Johan Rojas at 64, I guess, is also similarly weak for run creation, but we don't expect Johan Rojas to create runs. We expect him to play a killer center field. Brandon Marsh at 4,400, 3,100, pretty cheap. 6 home runs, 8 steals, a 120 WRC plus, puts great bat on ball. Just doesn't get enough, by and large, enough launch to be the home run hitter that he probably should be, given all the premium contact, all the hard hits. But is a very good option for doubles, for run creation. I like Brandon Marsh a lot in this spot. And then burying the lead for the entire slate completely at the very end of the show, Zach Wheeler, 11,000, 10.8. Kind of a no-brainer off the top of the pitching board. Highest projection by a pretty wide margin on both sites. Highest price, totally willing to pay it on both sites. I think he looks tremendous here. 2.53 ERA with a 3.26 xFIP on the season. Just a 0.98 whip, generating a 13.8% swinging strike rate with a 27.9% strikeout rate. This same group of Giants hitters last year struck out at a 24.5% clip. We've got a couple small sample, low output numbers down here. The truth might be somewhere in between these two numbers for Brett Wisely. Elliot Ramos is fairly high strikeout. Wilmer Flores is fairly low strikeout. Everybody through here is pretty gettable. And then some low strikeout options up at the top of the lineup. But Zach Wheeler knows how to find him, knows how to keep the ball in the yard, is excellent at limiting premium contact over time. Can't really sell Zach Wheeler hard enough in this spot. Looks tremendous. Pitcher's Park is on his side. Limited lineup on his side. If you choose to target Zach Wheeler, I'm not exactly sure why that would be outside of just he's probably going to be pretty popular. Giants are okay, but they're not great. There's a little bit of power in that lineup. There's a lot for Jorge Soler, but he hasn't really shown it this season. Just a 160 ISO, 6 home runs, just 39.3% hard hits is way off the mark. 8.5% barrels also way off the mark for Soler. Kind of a problematic season so far for him. Matt Chapman's got a ton of power on the right day, but it's amounted to 8 home runs, a 183 ISO. Does have an 11% barrel rate, but hard hits are down. They're still tremendous at 46.8, but they're definitely down. Patrick Bailey hits the ball very hard, but doesn't turn into a ton of home runs. 183 ISO is good. 141 WRC plus over 119 plate appearances is very good. He's cheap at the catcher position, 3,200. He's playable. But the overall upside, the actual output against this pitcher, probably a very limited opportunity. Luis Matos, over 65 plate appearances, been productive from the top. Tyro Estrada, 8 home runs, a stolen base. Productive enough hitter with more upside than we've seen from him so far this year. Bottom of the lineup, Yastrzemski, Flores, Ramos, and Wisely. Playable mix and match parts. Flores hasn't been good at all, hasn't really been himself so far this season, over 148. Low strikeout, a lot of bat on ball, but against a pitcher who doesn't really give up much power, with a hitter who's struggling to find his power, kind of limited option. Yaz has 5 home runs, a 165 ISO. Again, it's a okay power hitter from the left side against a very good pitcher who limits power very effectively. Ramos is a high-end rookie, or a kid who was one of their high-ranked prospects. 13.6% barrels, 56.8% hard hits in just 73 plate appearances, 2 home runs, a stolen base. He's been good, but again, it's not a priority, and there's no real reason to say, all right, Elio Ramos is in this lineup. I got to go to them against Zach Wheeler. Not how you want to look at it. So very limited here. Wheeler, gigantic yes. Phillies bats, pretty big yes in any situation here. But particularly a big yes if Spencer Howard comes out of the bullpen. I think that shoots up their value. Giants bats are kind of a no, and then nothing to do with the Giants pitching situation in any shape or form. Mom is saying, not my typical question, but what do you think is the weakest position on the slate? Usually second base. That's usually where I land on that kind of a question. We can use the home run board to cheat it a little bit. There are some good second basemen in baseball, but it's typically one of your weaker spots. Unless you want to just, consider outfield since you need 3 of them. That does cheapen the position a little bit. But just using home runs as kind of the guideline. You got Semi in there. Next man up is Glaber, who's already down at 8.07, and some of that is coming out of the matchup against Canning. Ozzy Albies, believable that it could be higher. Premium power bat at second base. I'm sure Marte's not far behind here. But overall, it's probably second base. You see a lot of third baseman outfielders higher up in this mix. Shortstop, you can make the same argument, but I think there's higher end shortstop bats by and large. Volpe down here. You got Corey Seager up there. Who else do we have at short today? Actually, you know what? It might be shortstop today. Bo Bichette, especially considering how cheap he is super interesting at shortstop. This is by FanDuel eligibility, by the way. Yeah. Well, Bobby Witt hiding down there when we go. See, that's the thing. When we go by the home run model, you've got guys like Jeremy Pena, CJ Abrams hiding down here. You even get shortstop eligibility on Jackson Merrill on FanDuel. Kim, I think, has ability. Correa, Arcia, Dansby, Bobby Witt. So that's why the home run model is not the ideal way to go through this. But one way or another, the answer to your question, I think, Mamba, is either shortstop or second base. It's the middle infield. A lot of power through the outfield, a lot of power on the corners, as you would expect. Riley or McMahon on third base on DK. Well, Riley's right there. McMahon's not far off. Where is he? The hell's McMahon? Did I not put everybody back on here somehow? Oh, that's why. Mick, Mary, Ryan, Mick. Yeah, that's probably going to do it. All right. That's going to annoy me now. Why is that not finding Ryan McMahon? They're playing the Guardians. McMahon, 7.39 in the home run model. Has been easily their best player this season. Matchup ballpark. If you're saying all things are equal about that situation, it's probably still Riley. I just really like that player. But based on current season form, based on the idea that Riley is just in his second game back from an extended absence with injuries in which he wasn't on the IL but wasn't really swinging, I can make a reasonable argument that it should probably be McMahon. I hate to do this to you, but I think I got to call it a tie because I do love Riley. I do love the upside. It's the better matchup between the two, despite the Coors Field of it. I think Riley against Jake Irvin is probably better. I'm going to give you a slight edge to Riley that, in a realistic sense, McMahon probably recoups by the ballpark as a tiebreaker. But I'll call it, if I have to, I'll call it Riley by a slight edge, given what he's showing in the home run model and the pitcher matchup. So let's round this thing out. We did just do our look at the home run board, but one more time at the pitcher board here, and then we're going to punch out of here. It's coming up on 6 o'clock, and we've been going for 2.5 hours, and we got to get some updates in with some of these pitching changes. Zach Wheeler, top of the board, easy spot to me. Love the opportunity for him against the Giants to put up a monster game. Projected for a bunch of innings at the top of the board, and I didn't really get involved and change it because he does pitch deep into games, has that upside easily. Kevin Gausman, love the spot outside of what I'm sure is going to be explosive popularity on DraftKings at 8,500. Terrific matchup for him against the White Sox. Freddie Peralta, Cole Ragans, Max Fried, Luis Castillo, all playable, all similarly talented in that top echelon of overall talent. Best matchup among them all is probably Max Fried against the scuffling Nationals team that has not been good against lefties, with his ability to keep the ball in the yard, find some strikeouts. Really like his opportunity at 88 on DraftKings. Castillo, probably the toughest matchup in that group against the Astros, 9,200 on both sides. Puts him in play, but it does come with a little bit of an asterisk around recent performance against two really good teams in terms of low strikeouts and just a tough matchup. But Castillo easily could put up the tie score on the slate. He is a tremendous pitcher. Ragans against Minnesota is probably the next best matchup, and then not far behind Freddie Peralta against the Cubbies. Either side of those, perfectly happy to go with either of those options. Tons of upside for both those pitchers. Strikeout upside, innings pitched, clean innings. Really like the opportunity for both of them. Nestor at 9,000, 9,500. It's a little bit of an awkward fit price-wise on DraftKings. No reason to think he can't succeed over 6 innings and give you a win, give you a quality start. Love the opportunity, a win bonus. Probably a quality start bonus in play as well on the FanDuel slate for 9,000. I do like him better on FanDuel for 9,000 than 95 on DraftKings. Evaldi, I do not think is at this level. Right, that's a 6-inning projection that we didn't take the time to change, but he's probably not going even 5, considering he made no rehab starts and is just a kind of a surprise starter today. So I don't think we get that out of Evaldi. I don't think he's in play on either site. Jesus Luzardo, like him a lot better at 8,000 on DraftKings. 96, a little bit of a rough option, but I could see him doing well. I could see a good, not slate winning kind of a day for 9,600. I think these options are better, but he's on the board on FanDuel. He's a fairly high priority at just 8,000 on DraftKings. That's a really good spot. 65.74 for Hunter Brown. Looks like a killer opportunity if you get the good Hunter Brown today. If you get the bad Hunter Brown, well, just set that lineup on fire and throw it in the garbage because it's not going to work out. 7,400, 6,500. It's worth the discount to find out. That's how you buy Yankees Braves. That's how you buy whoever the hell else you might want. Ben Brown against Milwaukee, similar. There's enough upside there. If we're getting probably just 5 innings, 7,300, I'd rather just go to Hunter Brown against the worst Seattle team than mess with Milwaukee with the worst of the two pitchers. But I think the upside is realistic. He's in that same mix of pitchers. If you're building a bunch of lineups, that's a pretty playable group of 62 to $7,600 pitchers on DraftKings. Hunter Brown, Ben Brown, Brandon Pfaadt, Simeon Woods Richardson against Kansas City, and Matt Waldron against Miami. 3 of those 5 pitchers are probably going to succeed, at least to enough degree to pay off those prices. Maybe it's 2. I probably should have called it like 2.7 of those pitchers are going to succeed if I'm setting an over-under. But that's not bad considering the value that's baked into all those guys. It's a better bargain bin than we normally get. A lot of quality in the bargain bin today. Not these guys necessarily, but this stretch. And you could throw Tristan McKenzie at Coors Field into that mix too. I just think he's appropriately the lowest end out of this group. Coors Field just damages it. The walks are going to be problematic there. Jake Woodford popped into our lives here at 7,800 on DraftKings. I don't think you play it against Toronto. Jake Irvin is a no against Atlanta. Griff Canning's a no against New York. Spencer Howard or whatever comes out of the Giants bullpen or starts the game is a no. And Ryan Feltner against the Guardians is a pretty firm no at Coors Field. Mamba says, thanks. I think it'll be the most important piece to winning it all today with that third base Riley or McMahon question. Great. I'm glad I gave you such a firm, not at all waffling between the two choices answer if it's going to be the most important part for you. Wish I could have done better for you on that one, but that just goes to show what a good question it was because they're so close. But I do think Riley's the more talented of the two players if you want to break it on that. With that in mind, you guys, 6 o'clock on the nose. Let me get out of here. Let me get stuff updated on the site. Thank you so much for hanging out. You guys make it fun. Hit the like button one last time. Check out the info below for sponsors and kickbacks and so on and so forth. Jump into the Discord if you're not in there. A lot of fun going on during the evenings, talking about results, talking about winning screenshots. Rip to Bill Walton. We put that into the NBA chat yesterday. Seemed like a great dude. I obviously never met him, but seems like a pretty high-end human being as human beings go. With that said, guys, good luck out there tonight. Somebody go win something. I'll see you tomorrow.